Let me let the recorder start. So we're here this morning for our first ever virtual officer candidate school. This is clearly a unique, interesting situation that we're in, considering all that's going on in the world right now. We're just very thankful that you're able to join us, and that we're still going to be able to carry out our state officer programs because they're very important for the work that we do for ag education in the state. So in order to get started, I'm going to let Sarah and Caitlin say hello to you and introduce a little bit about what we're going to be doing today. Go ahead, ladies.
Hi guys, this is Sarah. I am the Area Officer Coordinator for Louisiana FFA, so I have been in your shoes plenty of times, and Caitlin and I have been working to kind of make this process, even though it's not ideal, we're trying to make this process fair and give you the opportunity to be as prepared as possible. So I work at LSU at the FFA office, and I'll be here anytime you need me throughout this process. And I know Mr. Lejeune and Caitlin can say the same thing. So Caitlin, go ahead.
Yeah, y'all are lucky that you guys got Sarah. I think she might be one of the only person I know that has been through NomCom this many times. So she knows exactly what she's talking about. She'll be a big help to you guys. I'm Caitlin. I'm the leadership coordinator for Louisiana FFA. So the ones who get elected into state office, you guys will be working with me tons throughout the year, so I'm really, really excited about it.
Mr. Lejeune, do you have anything to add?
No, I really appreciate what our student workers do, especially Caitlin and Sarah. You know, our state FFA office, we manage programs for over 11,000 members and almost 300 teachers, and we have 3 full-time adults on staff. So a lot of what takes place is due to the hard work of our state officer team and of our student workers, and we definitely couldn't do it without them. So when you get an opportunity today, later on down the line, if you see the current state officer team, if you see the student workers, make sure you tell them thank you. The first thing that we wanted to do this morning to make sure that we're all on the same page is to talk about the procedures for how this conference call is going to go. So hopefully right now, if you're following along with us online, you can see the screen with the PowerPoint presentation. If for some reason you lose it, if you go to our website and go to the state officer training page that you can find on our homepage, you can find the PDF version of this presentation and follow along with it. So a few procedures for today. If you would, please make sure that when you're not speaking, you stay muted. Keep your microphone and your camera muted, especially your camera. It helps with the bandwidth issues so we don't have breakdowns in the conference call. Keep your microphone muted so we don't get any background sound. If you have a question during the training, if you would, there's a chat box that you can find down at the bottom of your screen. There should be a bar that pops up that has your camera, your microphone, and a hang up button. There's also a little chat bubble there. If you click on that chat box, you can type in a question. If you would, just put your name and your question, and as we go through the presentation, we'll answer those questions for you. During the training, we may call on you. We probably will call on you during the training to answer questions. When that happens, we'll unmute you so that you can talk. That way we don't have everyone trying to unmute at the same time. Whenever you do speak, make sure your microphone and your camera is unmuted because we do want to see you today so we can try to get that community togetherness as part of the conference today. If you lose connection while it's going on, don't freak out. You can click back on the link again to get back into the presentation. You'll just pick right up where we are in order to rejoin. Again, if for some reason you can't rejoin via this link, call the number that was emailed to you this morning. I was told this morning that some of you didn't get that email. I'm going to resend that email again here in just a few minutes. That way everyone gets it so that you can have the call-in number if necessary. If you have major issues and you just cannot access the presentation at all, this is my cell number here on the screen. Feel free to send me a text message. Please just don't share my cell phone number with anyone outside of the meeting today so that I don't get any random text messages over the next several weeks. Does anyone have questions so far on any of this information? Sarah and Caitlin, do y'all have anything to add?
No, sir, I think you covered it.
All right. Caitlin, do you want to cover our expectations for today?
Yeah, so I know this is totally weird, not being in person. I've done this for a few years now, so this is all new to all of us as well. So when you want to speak, if we ask you a question or you have a question, just type it in, and then we'll manually unmute you so you can ask your question. Or sometimes we may say whatever you wrote down in the chat box out loud. What we expect from you guys is to listen, to ask questions, and to try and soak in as much of this as you possibly can, because we know this is really nerve-wracking. I've seen a lot of candidates get really nervous about this, but today is the day for you to kind of calm your nerves about the process and state office in general. We would like you guys to do an introduction. So, Sarah, do you want to do that?
Yeah, so I think I have everyone's names written down from when you logged on. So I'm going to go ahead and call on your name. When I call on your name, go ahead and unmute yourself and turn on your camera. If you didn't call in, I know a couple of us had to call in, so that's okay. Just say your name and your chapter, and we'll keep rolling. So Faith, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here. Okay. Hi, my name is Faith Thibodeau. I'm from the Plainview FFA chapter.
Awesome. Thank you. Emerson?
Hi, my name is Emerson Lyons, and I am from the Beauchamp FFA chapter.
Thanks. And Madeline?
Hey guys, my name is Madeline, and I'm from the Natchitoches Central FFA chapter.
Awesome. Gracie?
Hi, my name is Grace Bennett. I'm from the Lakeview FA chapter.
Thanks. Alicia?
Hi, my name's Alicia, and I'm from the Belt Chase FFA chapter.
Thanks. Drake?
Hi, my name is Drake Hardy. I'm from the Iota High FFA chapter.
Sydney?
Hi, my name's Sydney Walker, and I'm from the Lackstein FFA chapter.
Thank you. Haley?
Hi, guys. My name's Haley Fashon. I'm from the Ponchatoula High FFA chapter.
Abigail?
Hey, y'all. I'm Abby. I'm from the Crowley FFA chapter.
Rachel?
Hey guys, I'm Rachel Smart. I'm from the Westlake FFA chapter.
Nathan?
Hi, I'm Nathan Warren from the Pearl River FFA chapter.
Hey Nathan, could you get closer to the microphone, or it's hard to hear you?
Is that good?
Yeah, much better. Jacob?
Hi, I'm Jacob from the Pearl River High FFA chapter.
Mason?
Hi, I'm Mason Rock from the Ponchatoula FFA chapter.
Elizabeth?
Hi, my name's Elizabeth Richwine, and I'm from the Florine FFA chapter.
Sadie?
Hey y'all, my name's Sadie, and I'm from the Santa Mall FFA chapter.
Megan?
Hi, I'm Megan Chasson from the South Lafourche FFA chapter.
Caleb?
Hey y'all, I'm Caleb from the Elton FFA chapter.
And Bryson?
Hey, I'm Bryson Johnson from the Tioga High FFA chapter.
All right, those are the only candidates I have. If you are a candidate and I made the mistake of missing you, go ahead and unmute and introduce yourself, please.
Hey, my name is Emily Wyndham, and I'm from the Lakeview FFA chapter.
Sorry about that, Emily. I got you.
It's okay.
Anyone else? All righty. Thank you for introducing yourself. That really helps us out, and we hope that you can get to know each other too, because potentially 10 of you are going to be spending a lot of time together. So make sure now that we've introduced ourselves that our videos and microphones are turned off, and we will get to the training. Okay, so our first topic is going to be what we're primarily here for, and that's to learn about the nominating committee process, the process that all of you are going to be going through in about a month exactly, almost. So because of, the situation that we're in right now, there has been some changes, but from what we are used to in the in-person process now that it's virtual. But we are at the state office and our state leadership are going to make sure that everyone is prepared and educated on what is expected of them so we can take those nerves away from you. So we are going to be calling on you at random to answer some questions throughout to make sure everybody's on their toes. So I do have a question. And so what do you know about the state selection process? Let's have Rachel answer that question.
Okay, so I've actually gone through this process before. It's a lot of hard work and dedication. There are about 7 rounds that we'll be going through, and we just want to make sure that we have each other's backs and we're doing our best.
Awesome. I'm sending you virtual snaps, Rachel. And then what about the process makes you nervous? Let's have Elizabeth answer that question, please.
I think the most nerve-wracking part of this process is how it's going to be done virtually this year. This is something new that we've never done before, so I think that's a difference that we'll have to adjust to.
Yeah, awesome. So yes, it's going to be virtual, and I know that can be nerve-wracking, but we are going to work together to make sure that everyone is on the same page. And yeah, so thank you for your answers. We're going to keep asking questions throughout the process. Mr. Lejeune, do you want to go over the goals for the committee process?
Sure, Sarah. So we borrowed this from the National FFA National Officer Handbook. Over the past several years, we have been using the national process to guide our state and area process, and we're really confident that this is the reason why we're increasing the rigor of what we do. We're getting really good state officers elected. They're carrying out awesome programs, and we're also confident that that's why we've been more competitive with our national officer candidates also. And so when you look at the National Officer Selection Handbook, there are 3 goals that they list as being why their NOMCOM process exists. And if you think about it, that's the same reasons why we do it here in our state. So of course, our primary goal of why we have a NOMCOM process is to select the 10 best students who are going to represent Louisiana FFA as our state officers. We have procedures and requirements in our Constitution and bylaws that call for 10 state officers and that require those officers to perform certain duties. And so the main purpose of our NOMCOM process is to select those 10 students in the best way possible. But then there's a couple of secondary goals that come along with that. So if you remember, there are 8 students who serve on the state nominating committee. We have 8 students, 4 adults, and 1 past state officer currently under our constitutional process. And so for those 8 students who are selected to serve on the NOMCOM, we want to provide them with the leadership experience also. For those students, this is an opportunity for them to serve the state association in a unique way. It's an opportunity for them to give back to Louisiana FFA also. So we're confident that with the process that we follow, with the rigor, with the training that they get, they'll also get leadership development and experience through it. And then the other secondary goal is to provide all of our candidates with a positive developmental experience. Regardless of if you get elected as one of our 10 state officers or not, you should see personal growth come about as a result of going through the state nominated committee process. Your ability to go through intensive interview questions, your ability to present in front of a group of people you potentially don't know, your ability to advocate for the industry, for ag ed, for FFA, all of those skills are things that are going to help you later in life, regardless of if you get elected as a state officer or not. So, we always say that the ends don't necessarily justify the means. And in this sense, that's true. There is much value in the process itself and the time and commitment that you're going to put into being prepared to run for state office that we think is very valuable in and of itself. Those goals are accomplished, as we already talked about, by using a very structured process. Our nominating committee process is very well thought out. It's highly structured. We'll go through that today. We also want to make sure that that process is fair and transparent. That's why your teachers were invited to be on this call today. There's nothing about our NomCom process that's a secret, that's hidden, that's a surprise. Anyone can learn the process. Anyone is invited to engage with that process to make sure that we're picking the best candidates possible. We want to make sure that our committee and our candidates feel that they're in a professional setting. This should be a very professional experience. It's going to be nerve-wracking. It's challenging for you, but we want you to understand that we're going to perform ourselves in a very professional way and represent ourselves as the young adults that you are and the professional adults that are also going to be on the committee. Then we want to make sure that all of our candidates have access to current resources, to relevant resources to help you prepare. If you look on our website, we've created the training page for state officer candidates. We're going to be adding content to that as we go on through the process. By giving you access to that type of resource and information, it's going to make sure that you have everything you need, not only to be a state officer, but to make you a better advocate for agriculture and for ag education. And then finally, we use what's called competencies to measure candidates' abilities. And when Ms. Dodd comes on the call with us later, she can go a little more in depth into what these competencies are. But each round of nominating committee is going to be measuring you on certain competencies that are related to being a state officer, such as relatability, your ability to time manage, your ability to speak competently. So these competencies are what you're actually going to get your numerical score on. And that helps us to determine, of the slate of candidates, who does the committee feel is the best ready to serve as state officers. Sarah, I think you can take it away now with the actual rounds.
Yes, sir. Okay, so guys, we're going to go nice and slow through this. The committee process is going to be taken up of 6 rounds for this virtual process. We're going to go one by one. You can see them on your screen. You can see them on your screen right now. So these are our 6 rounds. If you are familiar with the nominating committee process, you know that some of these look a little bit different than those before. But because we're having to make this virtual and doing some changes, we slightly adjusted the rounds, but we're going to go through them. So let's go ahead and go to round 1. Mr. Lejeune, there we go. So round 1 is going to be the personal panel introduction. This is going to be set up just like it was if it was in person. You will enter into a virtual meeting room with the entire committee, and you'll have 5 minutes to answer 3 questions about yourself. This is kind of for the committee to get their first impression, get to know you, have you introduce yourself. And we do have some example questions. These by no means are what you're going to be asked, but they can be around the ballpark. So we later on in this training will go through the ins and outs of what to expect with the virtual process itself, but for the rounds, this is what we have. And just a reminder, if you have any questions, you can go ahead and put them in the chat box and we will be looking for that. So if we don't have any questions about the personal panel introduction, we can go ahead and move to our second round. Okay, so this round is called Advocacy Round Robin. So you will be rotated through 3 different virtual meeting rooms, and you will be having a conversation with a representative from FFA, Agriculture Education, and the agricultural industry in each room. The representative that you'll be talking to is not a member of the committee. The committee will be split into 3 different groups, and they'll be observing but not participating. As state officers, you, when elected, are expected to have many one-on-one conversations with industry executives, stakeholders in FFA, ag teachers, advocates for agriculture education, and so forth. So this is to show the committee your conversation skills and the ability to be a representative of the FFA on the state level. You'll have 5 minutes in each virtual meeting room. The only person that you will be able to see is the person you're having a conversation with. So you'll have about 60 seconds before you enter into the room to get a prompt about who you'll be speaking with and what the topic will be. and you'll have a 5-minute conversation. Don't look at it like a one-on-one interview because it should be flowing both ways. Like the representative shouldn't just be asking you questions. It should just be talking back and forth really naturally like it would be in the real world. So if we have any questions for that, let me know. Alrighty. Oh, yeah, there's an example prompt for what something could look like for one of these rounds. Yeah, just about what we said. You'll have 1 minute to read a prompt to get an idea of who you will be speaking with and what about. And it will be different for all 3 rounds, for all 3 different rotations. We can move on, Mr. Lejeune. Okay, so this is going to be a new and different round compared to what we have done in the past. Ideally, if we were in person, we would love to have a one-on-one round where you get a chance to have a 5-minute conversation with every nominating committee member. But because we have the amount of candidates and the amount of nominating committee members virtually, that's just not functionally possible. So we've kind of made a compromise, since you having the opportunity to personally get to know the committee and the committee to personally get to know you is so important. We have established a personal round robin round. So each candidate is going to be rotated into small group conversations with the committee members. So this is set up similar to the advocacy round robin, but you will be having a conversation with the actual committee members. This conversation isn't going to be industry or FFA based, but it's going to be personally based about you. So these conversations are going to be geared towards topics that might have been covered in a one-on-one round, but instead they're going to be in a slightly smaller group setting so that you still get that intimate and personal opportunity. Sorry, I'm just checking the chat. Opportunity to get to know the committee and vice versa. And there are some example questions about the conversations you might have. And you will have 5 minutes with each group to discuss one topic. So again, this isn't going to be an interview, but this is going to be a conversation, because conversational skills are super important as being a state officer. All right, round 4, stand and deliver. So candidates are going to be expected to give a 5 to 6 minute speech on an assigned topic that will be given to you ahead of time. The minimum that we'd like you to have the speech is 5 minutes, but you will be cut off at 6 minutes. So there will be a timekeeper, one of our state volunteers or state staff members in there, and they'll let you know when you have 1 minute left so that you can keep yourself accountable for time. We are going to move you to a preparation room where you're alone. And whenever we say rooms, that means on the virtual conference tool that we're using, it's just going to be you with a state staff or member of our state leadership monitoring you, making sure you have your prompts and that you're being able to prepare. We're going to go over those exact logistics later whenever we get into security and procedures like that. But you are going to have 30 minutes to prepare on your own before you move to the room with the nominating committee. Yeah, so once you get, okay, a member will keep time. You'll be given 1 minute warning. The committee, after you finish your speech, no matter if you finished early or you were cut off, you're going to have 1 question and you'll have 2 minutes to respond. This question can be about your topic. It can be about the preparation of your topic. It can be anything about your speech or about how you prepared for your speech, anything really. And again, there is an example prompt. Again, by no means are you going to get something just like this, but this is something that you can expect. It can be anything about FFA, FFA associations, agriculture education, anything that you as an actual state officer might have to speak on at a moment's notice. So again, if you, will we get to use the binder for the speech like previous years? Mr. Lejeune, do you want to take that one?
we're moving our process closer and closer to the national process. In the national stand and deliver component of nominating committee, there's no resources allowed at all. Because of the situation this year of going virtual and us not really having a way of policing what you have access to, of trying to make sure that that's fair across the board, we're going to follow that national model where there will be no resources allowed during stand and deliver. Now, I will say this, the topics that will be used for stand and deliver are all going to come from resources that we're going to make sure you have access to prior to study that will be posted on that state officer candidate training page. So we're not going to ask you a question that's so ridiculously complicated and wants statistics and figures that you would never be able to answer without prompting. It will be a question that any well-studied state officer candidate should be able to come up with a speech for and perform properly during the committee process. And if you need any more clarification, I can provide that for you.
All right, we can go ahead and move to our next round if there's no more questions. All right, this is another kind of new and different round, but we're kind of excited about this round. You will be the first candidates to ever take part, which is kind of exciting. If you are, again, familiar with our rounds for state previously, this is going to be kind of replacing the facilitation round. Because we are moving to a virtual process, we have decided with our state leadership that doing a virtual workshop is not ideal and it causes a lot more obstacles that way. But we do want to know how you work with a team and how you might prepare a workshop if given the opportunity as a state officer. So this is the only round that you will not be individually separated in the rounds. You will be divided into groups. The committee will choose the groups based on whatever criteria they have. And within those groups, you're going to be given a prompt where you are going to have to be teaching a lesson or a goal, and you will have 30 minutes to work with your group in front of the committee. The committee will be muted and have their video off, so the only other people you can see on the chat is your other fellow candidates. You'll have 30 minutes to come up with a goal, with goals, objectives, activities, and possible supplies. This is 30 minutes that you have to plan a facilitation like you actually would be in person with the students. So this is having them watch you go through the process like you're about to walk into a classroom of students. So then, as the committee is watching you prepare and seeing how you work together as a unit, after those 30 minutes of collaboration and preparation, you will then present your plan to the entire committee. So you'll have 7 minutes to present, like, what are your objectives? What are your goals? What would be your learning activities? What supplies you would need, and so forth. You'll have 7 minutes to do that to the committee, and then you will have 5 minutes for questions. Again, you will not be facilitating to students or the committee, but you will be presenting your plan for the workshop, for the facilitation. Someone will be watching us during the 30 minutes of preparation. Yes, the committee will be watching you, how you speak to each other, how you come up with your creative ideas. Working together is a huge part of being on a team. So this is going to be able to show the committee how you communicate with one another, how you take people's ideas into consideration. So they will be observing, but will not be participating or asking you questions while you prepare. If that answers your question, let me know.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So our final round is the final panel round. Just like the first round, it's going to be just you and the committee members. This is kind of like the final personal round. They are going to ask you 3 questions and you'll have 5 minutes to answer. The setup is just like the first panel round. These questions are going to be less of introduction type questions and more of, we want to know who you are as a person. Why should we choose you? Here are some example questions. They're probably going to be geared a little more personal, a little deeper, because this is the committee's last chance to see who you are and what kind of person you are before they make their decision. So be prepared to be genuine, dig deep, and answer these questions because they're usually very personal. And don't be scared, but be prepared to be yourself and really just show them why they should pick you. So if we have any questions about round 6. Okay, now if you have any questions about any of the 6 rounds we just went over, you can type them in the chat or say, hey, I have a question, and we'll answer it.
Sarah, did you have some questions to ask them just about the process in general?
Sure. So, I have my list right here. I had to move in, guys. I was outside and the birds were chirping too loud.
You're doing fine, Sarah. You're doing great.
So I'm inside now. All righty. I have a question. I'll ask the question, then I'll call the names. Why, in our opinion, is teamwork an important thing to take into consideration when choosing a state officer? And Nathan, why don't you take that for me?
Teamwork is important because without teamwork, you won't get anything done. And without teamwork, the dream don't work.
Awesome. Alicia, do you have anything to add to that?
Yes, because teamwork is important because we're going to be with a whole other more people. So it's important to like be able to have like agreements and not get into arguments and just show that you're able to like work together.
Yeah. What about, oh, sorry, we have a question. Does it matter if we stand or sit for the rounds? I think because the camera is really probably only going to see your upper half of your body, I think for the interview rounds, sitting is fine. If you're comfortable, for example, the stand and deliver round, I know like I like to pace a lot. As long as you stay within the camera's view, you should be fine. At least that's what I think. If Mr. Lejeune, you want to add to that. Standing, I know whenever I stand, I start to like walk around because that's just what I do. The only thing about standing is to make sure that you are going to stay where the committee can see you. But yeah, I think sitting's fine, especially since it's virtual and you have to stay within that visual.
Yeah.
I'd like to add some. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Sarah, go ahead, Caitlin.
Yeah, you can stand as long as the committee can hear you. If you have an external mic on your computer, if you're too far away, it might not pick up your sound. So it's really important if you're doing a speech or something that they can hear what you're saying.
Did you have anything, Mr. Lejeune?
Nope, I think y'all covered it well.
Okay. One more question before I turn it over to Caitlin. Whenever we're thinking about these 6 rounds, why is it so important that we are honest during these rounds? Emerson.
So going through NomCom is something that I've been able to experience twice while I've been in FFA, and being honest and being true to yourself truly shows NomCom who you are. And if you're not honest through these rounds, what are you going to be able to show throughout this year? So
Awesome. Mason, do you have anything to add on to that?
If you're not showing your true self, like Emerson said, NomCom's not going to truly know who you are. And if you're being honest with NomCom, then you're going to be honest with Louisiana FFA. And that's all Louisiana FFA wants, is an honest officer.
Awesome. Thank y'all. Okay, so we have one more question from Sydney. For round 6, is the committee going to directly ask each candidate a question, or is it going to be a first come, first serve answer? Sydney, could you go ahead and unmute your mic? And I'm not exactly understanding it. Can you unmute your mic and ask that question?
Okay, so for the group activity, sorry, not round 6. For the group activity, you said after we present, there's going to be 5 minutes for questions. So are the non-com like going to ask, or the non-com, are they going to ask each candidate like in the group activity a question like separately, or is it going to be like a conversation?
Mr. Lejeune, do you want to take that one?
Sure. The NOMCOM has not met yet. They're going to meet on Monday. So for some details like that, they will probably decide that going forward. I've seen this done both ways, where it's 5 minutes of questions for the group in general, or it could be a question directed to each candidate. I think that Ms. Dodd is going to instruct the committee to come up with those parameters on their own. She's going to come onto the call here in just a little while. That may be a better question for her to gauge where she kind of feels that line of questioning is going to go. So I can't give you a direct answer on that right now.
Okay. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, these, especially for that group activity round, we are going to send you more information shortly to make sure that y'all are totally prepared. We know that it's different, but you get to say that you were the first ever slate of candidates to get to go through that process. Before, I keep saying that, but before we turn it over to Caitlin, we did have one candidate join late. JC, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
We'll try to catch her again here later if we can get better connection with her.
Okay. If we don't have any more questions, we can move along.
All right, guys. So I will be covering the security procedures, but I have a few questions first. So the way I'm going to do this is the first person to type in Louisiana FFA, or let's do I love LA FFA. The first person to type that in, because I know you guys are so eager to answer my questions. All right, Emily, let's do this. What is your personal definitions for honesty and integrity?
Honesty and integrity is being completely honest with yourself and others. And integrity is basically, I feel like, doing the right thing even when someone isn't watching. And I feel like that is really important, not only at the state officer level, but also at the area officer level and the chapter officer level, and even as just a chapter member level.
Yeah, that's the perfect definition. All right, the next question. Someone type in I love LAFFA. All right, looks like Rachel won. Quick hands, I see. What do you think the roles of honesty and integrity play when you're a state officer?
It plays a lot whenever, like, in yourself, because you, of course, want to be a good person whenever you're in a place of where people are looking up at you. But it's also going to be a reflection of Louisiana FFA. And you have to think about everything that you do, because whatever you do, all the members of Louisiana FFA are going to look up at you.
Yeah, exactly. So throughout your year of service, there's going to be tons of people looking up to you. And you're going to be kind of in a spotlight sort of sense. And people are going to maybe not want to be like you, but you guys represent a whole organization. You represent Louisiana FFA, and that's important for me and for our staff and for our members, that you guys have that honesty and integrity throughout your whole year of service. So to start using our honesty and integrity, we're going to need you guys to show that in the nominating committee. So let's talk about the procedures, okay? So we're going to have breakout rooms, virtual breakout rooms. There's going to be holding rooms, preparation rooms, and interview rooms. To ensure fairness, we're going to have one of our staff members monitor each room, and all rooms will be recorded, okay? They're going to be looking for outside sources like phones, advisors, family members, friends, computers, internet use, textbooks, etc. Those are strictly prohibited from each round. We want you guys to show yourselves and not the knowledge that you have, or not the knowledge someone else has or something like that, okay? Just what you have. Once candidates are finished with a round, you can't talk about the questions, the answers, or the prompts with any other candidates. That's not fair. If you were going up against somebody and they had the prompt, well, if I was going up against somebody and they had the prompt, I would be a little upset because it's just not fair. Once the selection process is totally finished, you guys can talk about it. I know my state officers tell me one of their favorite things is getting together. Once they get together and talking about all that, it's a lot of fun talking about that kind of stuff. But please wait until the whole process is over. Any deviations from what we expect for you, from you security-wise, will be a removal from the process, and you cannot run for state office. Okay, so let's talk about some of those procedures that we're going to follow. There's going to be two procedures that we're going to use. The first one is for panel rounds, personal rounds, or for panel rounds, personal round robin, and advocacy round robin. Okay, for those rounds, there will be no preparation room. Candidates will be moved by the monitors or the host manually into the interview rooms from the holding rooms, and with the nominating committee. Okay. Video and microphones should remain on during the whole duration of the interview and holding rooms. Okay. No other person should be in the room while you're interviewing. Random request to scan the room will also be asked, okay? So if one of our staff members says, hey, can you scan the room? Just turn your camera around so we can see that no one else is in there, you don't have any textbooks, and your phone is on the face down or not near you. Conversations between the candidates and committee members should remain 100% professional. We understand that sometimes friendly banter happens, and that's totally encouraged. We want you guys to show your personality to the committee, but make sure that you don't talk about other candidates scoring or placing. That's really not your business until it's all over. All interview rounds will be monitored, recorded, and reviewed by staff to ensure safety and fairness. All right, so that's the first one. And remember, that one is used for panel rounds, personal round robin, and advocacy rounds. Are there any questions about that procedure?
And Caitlin, you may want to add that for the state NomCom process, we're not going to be using this Microsoft Teams platform. We will be using LSU's Zoom platform for that particular or for NomCom. And using Zoom, we're going to have the ability to have breakout rooms on Zoom, and each breakout room will have a recorder. And so you're going to be recorded the entire time. And that's not for us to play Big Brother to spy on you, but it's to make sure that there is integrity of the process. And if anyone questions the process, all we'll have to do is pull the recording up and we can go take a look. So that's for your protection. It's for our protection. It's to make sure that this virtual NomCom is as fair as it can possibly be.
Right. So we have a question from Miss Sydney Walker. How will the candidates know if the NomCom has lost their picture or sound? So the nominating committee and Miss Dodd will have a chat going on that they can communicate with each other. If someone has lost connection, Miss Dodd will do whatever she feels fit, if that is stopping you or maybe giving you a little extra time. That's going to be on a basis that is totally up to whatever host is in the room. It's going to be Ms. Dodd, most likely. I believe Mr. Lejeune will also be in the room. Is that right? Or maybe not. You'll be kind of going through other rooms.
I'm going to be monitoring the whole thing, so I'm going to have to be moving candidates from room to room, but I can jump in on any room during the process.
Right. So, Sydney, if something does happen, we want to make sure that you go through a fair process. We will also be reviewing all of the recordings to make sure that everything ran smoothly. So if something does happen, we'll take care of it, okay? Any more questions on procedures for panel rounds, personal rounds, round robin advocacy? Oh, so if your sound or picture is lost, will it affect your time? No, we want this to be as fair as possible. If you have a certain amount of time to give or to talk to the nominating committee, we want to ensure that you have that time because that's what's fair. All right, anything else? Okay, let's go into the second procedure, which is for group activity and stand and deliver. Okay, so remember we're gonna have breakout rooms. So the holding rooms will be monitored and recorded for all rounds. In the holding room, candidates' microphone and video must remain on at all times. That is for the whole process. Please keep your video on and your sound on unless you're told otherwise. For the prep room, to ensure every candidate is given the same opportunity to perform, candidates will be instructed by the monitor to complete the 3 security S's, okay? So try and keep those 3 security S's in mind. They are scan, step back, or scan, show your phone, and step back, okay? So scanned, what does that mean? The candidate will be asked to show a 360-degree view of the room and that they're preparing in. No other person is permitted to be in that room or books or whatever. Okay, so that's kind of what we talked about earlier of just picking it up and moving your camera around to show that you're alone and that you're staying fair and honest. Second, show your phone. Literally what it means. We're gonna ask you guys to pick up your phone, show that it's probably off or not being used. You're gonna set it down right in front of your camera so the camera can see it. It's turned off, it's on silent. So they can see that you're not touching your phone at all. The next is step back. Even if you are sitting down, we're gonna ask that you kind of step away or scoot back away from the camera so they can see all of you. Your face, chest, and arms pretty much. This is for the monitor to see that you aren't looking at anything or getting help from anyone, okay? Is there any questions about that? All right, what if you're...
Caitlin, to clarify, Caitlin, these 2 say facilitation, that means the group activity. We changed that title a few days ago from facilitation to group activity.
Right. All right, so we have a question from Emily. What if we're using our phone for the process? That's totally fine. I understand that some people don't have laptops or maybe you don't have a webcam. That's totally cool. If you are using your phone, we're going to ask that you tell us that you're using your phone, and we'll kind of keep up with who's using laptops and stuff like that. So if you're using your phone, that's okay. You're still going to treat it the same way, like as a laptop stepping away, but you just don't set it on the ground. Any other questions? All right, cool. I think that we are going to take a 10-minute break unless Mr. Lejeune or Sarah has any thing to add.
I have one thing to add to scan. For the scan and deliver round, whenever it says scan, Caitlin and I talked about this a couple days ago, you're also going to scan the paper that you're using to write. So we know that all of you would never, ever try to get a leg up unfairly against another, but just to make sure that no one can question the integrity of this process, I have writing on this paper. But what you're going to do is the paper that you're using to prepare your speech, you're also going to scan that. So all we're asking is that before you start, the monitor, whoever friend is watching you, you're just going to scan your paper, show that there's no like data or information already on it before you start writing. So keep that in mind too.
Thank you, Sarah and Caitlin. We're going to take a 10-minute break. We'll come back at 10:10. You can feel free right now if you want to step aside, take a break. If you want to stay in the room and chat with each other, that's perfectly fine too. I know we've all been social distance now since about the middle of March. So anytime we get an opportunity to have some human contact, even if it's through a computer, that's pretty cool. So take the next 10 minutes to visit with each other, go get a snack, take a walk outside, whatever you need. And we'll come back at 10 minutes after 10 to start with our next section. If y'all want to chat using the voice capability too, that's fine. We don't just have to do it in the text chat. The only voices I've heard for the past month and a half has been my wife and kids and the 2 dogs barking. So to hear other people's voices from other schools has been a fun thing. And it looks like Miss Eton just joined our call too, so she may have some fun quarantine stories for us.
Hey y'all, how y'all doing?
Hey, Miss Eton.
What's going on?
Hi, Miss Aton.
Oh, wait, I'm gonna look at y'all. Where's everybody at? How do I see people?
They're all hiding, Miss Eton.
Oh, stop hiding. I want to see you.
And they're all in official dress, so they need to show it. I haven't seen an FFA jacket in a while either.
Well, I'm at work. I have my pup with me. I want to see my pup. Can y'all see him?
No, your camera's not coming on.
Miss Eton, my dog has been scratching at my feet the entire time of this little conference.
Oh, look, Gibbs has had his head in my lap, like, here, play with me. I can't get my camera on.
Did you steal my webcam off of my computer at work?
Yep.
You may have to tell it to read that webcam.
Okay.
Has Gibbs been enjoying the fact that you're home all the time?
Oh my God, yeah. But I read online that I need to start like separating from him. So I've been trying to leave him.
I need to practice that before we go back to school and go back to work with mine.
They said that the dogs are going to really suffer once we get out of quarantine because they're so used to us being home, you know.
Hey, this is Regina Smart, and the big dog training person that I am. That's actually a serious concern, and so that's a good advice that you've gotten to start distancing yourself from your dog. Even if you're just leaving them in the house while you go to the grocery store or something like that, they need to start kind of, like I've already started kind of ignoring my dog from time to time because it's going to be hard on them.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and he like sticks to me like glue. If he sees me putting clothes on, he knows we're going somewhere.
Yeah, mine too. He's following me everywhere I go, like every step I take.
My daughter is going to have that problem when I go back to work.
It says I have to do an omnibar to click the camera icon on omnibar. Where is that?
I have no idea what that is, Miss Eton.
All right, well, I'll look at y'all. Y'all don't have to see me and my pup.
Are all of our plants still alive, Miss Eton?
Oh yeah, I just checked on them. Yeah, everything's good. I just finished moving everybody from local to state to national and getting them invoiced. So every day at ffa.org.
Miss Eton was declared as our essential worker for the FFA office, so she's the only one allowed to go to campus twice a week and check mail and write checks, and most importantly, she waters, I don't know, y'all, how many plants do we have in the office now? 20?
At least.
Quite a few.
Yeah.
So many.
They're all still alive, thank the Lord. All right. So what's going on? What is on this?
We're taking a break right now. We're going to come back in about 5 minutes.
Well, I was supposed to be taking a final this morning, but she hasn't posted it yet. So
maybe she's just going to give you an A.
Well, let's hope so. I'm thinking about taking a pass on my other class.
Hello?
Hello?
Wait, y'all can hear me?
Yep. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Is this JC from Vinton?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Whenever we start up again at 10:10, we're going to have you introduce yourself to everyone.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry about the technical difficulty.
It's okay. It happens. That's why we're starting this now. That way, when it comes time for NomCom, we'll have all this worked out.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. I see you're all dressed up, Mr. Lejeune.
I mean, I'm not going to confirm nor deny if I'm wearing tennis shoes or anything like that. This is the first time I've worn a tie since probably February.
Mr. Lejeune, I have to say, I don't think any of us are wearing tennis shoes. Who would do that? Y'all can't see down here.
No. My wife has been having conference calls with our corporate office almost every day since this started. And boy, they all put their makeup on. They get all prettied up. Their big boss, he's in his black shirt and black tie, but every single one of them is wearing either sweatpants or shorts on underneath.
My mom's and I'm at my
I mean, if we're
office
being
at my
honest,
work, and my
I mean,
mom's in a
aren't we all
conference
just
call
dressed
right
from the
next to
waist
me,
up?
and that's what she did. She just did top up.
I did see there was a reporter, I don't remember which network he was on, but he was doing a live stream from his apartment, and he had his coat and tie on top, but I guess he didn't realize that the way his camera was positioned, people could see down below he was in underwear. And it was on national TV.
I watched a video of a guy. His wife was a news reporter, and she was doing the news in the backyard, and it was live. And he walked into the backyard just in the middle of the news set, and was on live news. It was hilarious.
I got it.
See,
It's been something.
My video's live.
Well, I'm glad you're all able to get on. We were hopeful that this would work out, and I think it was very important that we continued on with the process. You know, just while we're having a break here, we're also very lucky that we have our convention in June, because there's a bunch of states that had conventions scheduled in March and April that either had to straight up cancel them, or they had to go to a strictly virtual convention because they didn't have an option of making anything up.
Yeah.
So thank God for technology, and thank goodness that we had some time here that we can hopefully get this thing rescheduled come August. I'm pretty hopeful that we'll be able to pull that off, especially if y'all all go back to school in August. It's gonna give us a lot more credibility to say that we should be able to have our convention. So we're excited about it.
A lot of my out-of-state
Imagine having
FFA
that many
friends.
people at a virtual convention, like that must be insane trying to do that.
They did.
Yeah, a lot of my friends out of state are really scared about all of their state conventions. I have a couple friends, like you said, there's no state convention for them this year, and they're really upset about it.
Yeah, we're one of like only 2 or 3 states that our ag teachers are still 12-month employees. So that's why we do our convention during the summertime. And so tell your ag teachers, this is why you get 12-month employees.
This is why
you work all summer long, so that we
okay.
can have a summertime convention and not have to cancel ours, or just straight up go virtual.
Teammates
Yeah.
gonna be out of town this time.
Convention's going to be really special this year, especially for the people graduating, because I know, like, so that week of convention, my brother starts school Friday, and then I leave that Saturday to go move in to college. So it's really going to be like my last send off, and it's sort of great that I get to do it with everyone in FFA, and it makes it really special for me. So I'm looking forward to it.
Same here.
We're gearing up. It's going to be kind of slow during June and July, but hopefully once August gets here, we can crank back up with it again. But for those of you who get elected, you are going to have stuff going on during the summertime. Don't think
Oh yeah, for sure.
don't think you're going to sit around for 2 months with nothing to do. We've already got big plans. All right, Sarah and Caitlin and Ms. Dodd, it's 11 after 10. Are y'all ready to get restarted?
Yes, sir. Here in the break, JC, I think you got over some technical difficulties. Do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself for everybody? Okay, well, maybe we'll get back to JC again. We did hear at one point. Before we start with Miss Dodd, I have a quick note. Sorry. I have a quick note from the Rams, just as kind of like a to know. Usually we have a writing portion and a test portion for the committee process, but because again, we're having to do this via social distancing and virtually, we have decided that it's probably best and fairest to just omit those rounds. So if you, again, are familiar with the process, there will not be a test and there will not be writing. This does not mean that you should not study up on your FFA, Louisiana, and American agriculture, because you are going to have to implement those knowledge skills into your other rounds. But just know writing the test is going to be hard. So, all right, Miss Dodd, if you'd like to.
Hey, everyone. Sorry, I was just making sure. I'm Rylin Dodd. I have been around in FFA for quite some time now. I served 7 years ago. I guess this June it'll be retired 6 years ago. State president for Louisiana FFA, and then 2 years after that, I had the privilege and honor to serve on the national nominating committee to choose the 6 national officers. And ever since then, I've been working with state staff on creating and implementing a new selection process for our state that better aligns with nationals to help us get national officers elected. It's gone really well. So we've had a national officer, and then Sarah made it through the cut as well this year, which is huge because before all of this, like when I was in FFA, our candidates really didn't make it through the cut. So we're moving forward with that. I'm excited to do this. A little stressed about how it's going to go virtually, but we've met with people and we've worked out how we're going to do things. And so today I just wanted to come on and answer any questions that you might have about how this is going to look as far as the NomCom side of it and how it's going to go for all of you. So if you want, you can go ahead and type questions in the chat, and I'll give you a few minutes to do that, and I'll read them and start answering them for y'all. So if you have any questions about the process or the round specifically, you can type them in the chat and I'll answer them for you. So I'll give you minutes to do that.
Miss Dodd, we have one.
Okay. What will be used as a tiebreaker this year? So since we don't have the test actually the last few years has counted in as a round. It hasn't really been a tiebreaker anyways. So the way that this process is set up now, mirroring it with nationals, we don't really have tiebreakers. So the committee scores you 1 through 5 based off of how you hit certain competencies in each round. And those are on scorecards, and I'll make sure that you get what competencies they'll be looking for in each round. So they're going to score you 1 through 5 off of those, and then they're going to get evidence. And so what evidence is just like comments about like your personality, things that they're not scoring you on, but that actually impact you as a state officer, and that reflects on that. And so when they go in and they slate the team for NomCom's choice, if they're between 2 people, this kind of happened this past year, if they're between 2 people somewhere, they talk about things and character traits that they've noticed in rounds, and that's how they decide who they're going to put in that position. So there's not really like a scored set tiebreaker. Instead, it's going to go off of things that the committee saw. If that answers your question, Drake. And will candidates still be able to run off of the floor? That's more of a Mr. Lejeune question. It's in our constitution and bylaws, so I would imagine that we're going to have a process for that. But that's a question that he'll have to answer, Emerson.
I've got an entire section, Emerson, on virtual elections that we're going to go over here at 10:30. And the short answer is yes, you'll still be able to do that, and we'll talk here about how that's going to look.
Okay. Any other questions about rounds or what the committee's going to expect from you or how the committee's going to be?
Ms. Dodd, you have a question from Sydney.
Okay. On round 5, group activity, will the NomCom ask the candidates direct questions, or will it be more first come, first serve answers? That's a good question, Sydney. So for round 5, the group activity, I'm actually meeting with the NomCom on Monday. But what we're going to do is they're more than likely, depending on your group numbers, they're going to have 3 to 4 questions for you. And typically you want each person to answer each question because you're all being scored on your answers to the question. So you don't want to like miss out, but there's going to come a time where if you and Drake are together and Sydney answers a question in full detail and you kind of don't leave anything left for someone else to say, that's what the other questions are for. Just so out of respect for each other, like answer the question to the best of your ability. And if you say everything that somebody else wants to say, just know that there are other questions and just kind of be respectful of each other as far as who answers first. Maybe have a different person answer first each time, but you're all going to be scored on all the questions. Will there be cuts throughout the process or a candidate going to all do the complete rounds? It depends on how many people run. In the past, we've made cuts. We had 20 plus candidates. If there's only 15 of you, we're not going to make cuts because 10 of you get slated to office. So that kind of takes out any anticipation for the announcement of the report. If you cut it down to 12, then only 2 people aren't going to get non-com's choice. So cuts come off of how many people run. And if there is a cut, it's going to be after that first day. So everyone's going to go through the first few rounds on that first day. And then depending how many candidates there are, there'll be a cut. And then everybody else will go through the remaining rounds. It just depends how many run. Anybody else?
Ms. Dodd, can you talk about the process that you're going to follow with the nominating committee as far as how are you going to train them? Just talk about, since it's going to be virtual, how are we still going to ensure that this is a high quality process that's going to pick a good slate of candidates?
Yes. Emily, to answer your question real quick, you will find out who made it before state convention. Like Mr. Lejeune said a while ago, I don't know if everybody was in, but they do have things that the new state officer team will be doing this summer. I know National FFA does stuff over the summer, and obviously it might look different for all of you, and it might be virtually, but you will have responsibilities this summer. So we will be selecting and electing a team that first week of June. So this whole process, and we'll have 10 new state officers that first week of June. You won't have to wait until August. So as far as NomCom goes, their training is going to be on Monday. There's 13 of them. There's members from each, 2 members from each area, 4 business representatives, and then a past state officer. They've all been chosen. Mr. Lejeune and Jaden and I worked to get like the members and stuff, and then I got the past state officer. And they're going to learn how to score you. And so, like I said, the score system is going to be 1 through 5. And the way it's really pushed at nationals, and the way that I train a committee is you're either really going to get a 1, 3, or 5, because 2s and 4s are kind of in the middle. And specifically, you're really going to get a 1 or 5. You either hit it or you don't. And so the way some of these questions are asked, it's kind of to guide you to hit certain points. So they're asking behavior-based questions to see how you handle situations, not just how do you speak, how do you look, your poise. That's all written down as well. But they're really scoring you on your personality and the way you work with people. And these questions are going to be geared towards that. And so with this process, a lot of people get nervous and they're like, oh, I didn't have a chance to answer this question, or this question didn't let me show this side of me. And what I tell people is usually if you have a hard time with it, everybody else does. We're not able to ask 10 questions around to make sure you hit all of these points, but there will be other opportunities for you to do so. We're not going to set you up like for failure to where no one can get any points. So really think about past experiences and reflect on that. That's more of ways how you want to answer these questions. So the committee's going to know all of that. They're also going to be set up in a different room where no one else is to be able to score you. And so to hold up the integrity end of the nominating committee, they're going to score you after each person goes. So there's going to be a little delay before you come in the room. And that way they're not comparing people. So if one person goes, they're not keeping their scorecard to compare them to the next person. They're going to all score one candidate and they're going to submit their scores to me, and then the next person will come in. That way it's fair for all of you. You're not being compared to who went before you and who went after you. You're scored right there in the moment. And that kind of keeps it fair for everybody. You're not going to see the committee at all. When they ask you a question, I'll have that person turn their mic on so you can see who's speaking to you. But if all 13 of them plus you have your camera on or something like that, then we'll have a bad internet lag. So that's going to be how that goes. I'm going to get them to come up with questions and stuff on Monday, just sample. I kind of guide them to where their questions should be. You're not going to be asked any like silly questions. Like if you could be a fruit, what would you be and why? And that sounds funny now, but like those are the kind of questions that were asked when I was an FFA. So we've come a long way. You won't be asked any questions like that. I'm going to send out like topics. So if your speech is going to be off of, like I'll send out 5 topics. Your speech is going to fall in the category of one of these 5. So you're not going to have the exact word for word prompt that it's going to be, but you'll have a general idea of what you need to be studying. Because if I just say American agriculture, that could be anything. And so we're going to send out 5 hot topics for you just to be able to look at and kind of gear your studying towards. And because we're doing facilitation a little different, I'm not going to send out topics for that. They're going to explain more in detail how that's going to go for you, but you will have like your speech areas. That way you can have more focused studying. So there are some questions. Mr. Lejeune, is that kind of what you wanted?
Yes, ma'am. I know that there's been concern, this is all going to be virtual. How do we make sure that we still have a really good process? And I'm really confident in the work that you're doing, and that this is going to be fair, and it's going to be just as intense and valuable as it's ever been. Okay. In the past, there's been a meet and greet night where candidates have been able to meet the delegates. Well, we have something. That's a Mr. Lejeune question. Great. We have been talking about. Still want to provide some opportunity for candidates to introduce themselves prior to the process starting. Not sure yet what that's going to look like, but yes, Drake, we are planning to do something of that sort. Any other questions specific to NomCom, how the committee will handle things? Like I said, we're gonna, the integrity of this process probably means more to me than a lot of you realize, as far as it being fair for all of you. That is how this process has really been focused, to make it fair and best for the candidates and for the state as far as moving forward with new officers. So like I said, I'm going to have things set up different to where it's fair for all of you. We're just going to have to trust that y'all and the committee do your part as far as keeping things within NomCom. Do we or will we know how many people will be on the committee? There's 13. So 2 members from each area. So that makes up 8 members. And then there's 4 business representatives from each area. So that gets you to 12. Those are going to be adults. Jaden selected, people applied, and Jaden selected the members. Mr. Lejeune found the agricultural representatives as far as the adults go. And then we have a past state officer from probably 4 or 5 years ago. I spoke to her, and she's going to be able to do it virtually as well. So there'll be 13 people on the committee, Rachel. Anybody else? All right. If you think of a question towards the end of all this, I'll put my email in the chat if you want to write it down or save this. Ms. Todd, just in general, from your experience of supervising our state process for a while and serving on the national process, and this may alleviate some, potential fears, concerns of the candidates, give them a little direction. If you were to describe what does a nominating committee typically look for in a state officer candidate? What are some of the characteristics, the qualities, how they present themselves? If you were to summarize the ideal state officer candidate for them to start working towards, what would you say that is? Having been through this process on both sides, I like to say on both sides of the table, whether being a committee member or a candidate, for me, and knowing what I know about the process and having set everything up, the ideal state officer isn't someone that's going to come in and give the perfectly timed speech, the perfect poised answers to questions, someone that speaks to a T on point. That's not the perfect candidate. Mr. Lejeune and National FFA and Sarah and Caitlin, they can train you to speak well. They can train you to facilitate. What you want as a state officer candidate and what you want to be as a state officer is someone that can genuinely connect with people, someone that when you walk into a room, the committee's going to smile because they're just excited to see you because you put that off. You have a great personality. You can make them laugh, but you can also be serious and answer their questions. You're an approachable person. I like to say you can teach someone to give a speech, but you can't teach someone to be just a good person. That comes. And I know like you wouldn't be running if you weren't good people, but a lot of times in this process, so many people try to be who they're not. They want to show off and just be the best for the committee. And sometimes that's not the best. That's not what's going to get you elected. I
I know, I think I saw Sadie Foster's on this, and like she was on NomCom last year. And that committee last year really focused on who these people were like as people. And that was a big part of selecting the state officers, because a lot of people can go in there and give speeches. A lot of you have been, you've been in FFA, you've been around, you've competed. So a good state officer is someone who can genuinely connect with people, someone that can present themselves appropriately and professionally. And so I think that's what's important as a state officer. Like I said, you can train anybody to give a speech, but you can't train somebody to connect with people and to be a genuine person. So that's what I have as far as the process. So just be yourself.
Does anyone else have any questions for Ms. Dodd while she's with us?
I know some people have joined, Faith, Abigail. If any of you have questions.
Mr. Lejean, is this going to be recorded and put on the website?
Yes, ma'am. We've been recording since the meeting started. We're going to post it up on our YouTube site. We'll also link it to the State Officer Candidate Training page on the website.
Okay, thank you.
Do I have any other tips for you? So Madeline, that's a good question, because this is totally different. Doing it virtually, I think the biggest thing is don't let your nerves get the best of you. It's going to be different in the fact that some of you might be more relaxed because you can't see the committee sitting there staring at you while you answer these questions. That causes a lot of nerves for a lot of people. But my tips would be really to study around that sinks or swims. A lot of people is going to be that round where you talk to those business leaders. A lot of times that round really reflects where people get slated as far as offices go, because that truly shows your knowledge. You want state officers that are knowledgeable about agriculture and education and FFA. I mean, all of you should be pretty well versed in FFA, but not a lot of state officers are versed on agriculture, versed on agricultural education. So really sit down and have those conversations with your ag teachers. Watch Today in Louisiana Agriculture. I watched that a lot, or This Week in Louisiana Agriculture. I watched that a lot, like when I ran for state office. So you want to be really well versed in those areas, because that tends to be where people get set apart as far as just agricultural knowledge and ag education knowledge, because people lack that. It's not just being a state officer is not just about FFA. You advocate to a wide range of people across this industry. Be yourself. Like I said, that sounds very cliche, but that's really important. A lot of people try to be, other state officers that they've seen. They try to speak like them or act like them. And, that might have got that person elected that year, but it's a different candidate pool. It's different people. It's a different committee. I've, worked with several committees over the years, and they all tend to elect different people. So it's just different people's preferences and stuff. So just be yourself, be knowledgeable, and be confident, and be okay if things don't go great. Some of you are going to have internet problems. We're going to handle that, and we're going to work with you in the committee to ensure that it's fair for you. So don't get stressed out about technical difficulties, and just be who you are. I guess that would be my tips with it. Are the rubric areas going to be the same as the past? NomCom is scoring us. There are specific point areas. So, Sadie, are you asking as far as like what you're being scored on? Are those going to be the same as the past?
Right. So, like, they edited a couple of rounds, and there's even that new round. Is it going to be the same grading wise as it has been in the past?
Yes. So I'm actually in the process right now of turning those scorecards into a format that the committee can score you online, to where like they're not dealing with a bunch of paper and like trying to scan it and all that in between candidates. It is all the same. The difference is going to be like that facilitation. So that's going to look a little different. Obviously, You're not going to be presenting a full workshop. So as far as that round goes, this was really decided last night after we met with someone from Oregon about how we were going to do this round. I'm looking at that right now as far as how I want to word it and how I want them to score you, but you will still be presenting your like goals and objectives and stuff like that. So that's still going to be something you're scored on, your ability to form and create a workshop with someone else. So because you're still doing that, you're still going to be timed. You have 7 minutes. So that's going to be on there. Communicating with people, you're doing that. That'll be on there. The only difference is really going to be actually delivering a workshop and interacting with people, like interacting with students. I'm going to change that. Once I finalize all of that, I'll send it to Mr. Lejeune and Sarah, and I'll let them get that out to y'all. I don't have all of y'all's emails. They do. So I will let them get that out to you. I don't want there really to be any gray areas. I want y'all to know what they're looking for, anything to make it fair and easy as far as everything goes. I don't mind sending out the scorecards once I have them finalized. It's a totally different ballgame trying to get them all virtual and what I can fit on one page and stuff.
All of the NomCom materials that Ms. Dodd and the committee produced, we're going to post on your candidate training page. So again, just like the rest of the process, the rubrics are not a secret. There's nothing hidden. We'll have all of it there for you and your advisors to access.
And that'll be finalized Monday to Tuesday. I'm meeting with the committee on Monday. We had to work out a few things with them. And when we meet on Monday, I'll have everything pretty much together for y'all. So like I said, I'm just trying to work on getting everything set up for them virtually. It looks a lot different this year. So just trying to get all that set up for them. And once I have it finalized, I'll make sure that y'all get that information well before May 30th. So any other questions? All right, Mr. Lejeune or Sarah, Caitlin, does anybody have anything else for me?
I don't, but thank you so much, Ms. Dodd, for answering our questions.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I put my email, it's in the chat up there a little ways. If any of you get to the end of the day of all of this and you're talking to your advisor or even you're just thinking about it and you come up with a question specifically for me, as far as the process goes, you can email me. I'm having to do like virtual classroom stuff right now. So I'm on my email pretty much all day. So you can email me any questions you have. I wish you the best of luck. And like you're going to hear it a lot, just keep the integrity of this process at the peak of what you do, as far as like being honest with yourself and honest with the committee, with answering these questions and not talking to each other and stuff, because it's going to look a lot of really different. And we're putting that trust in you. And a big thing with state officers is responsibility and professionalism. And that goes hand in hand with keeping the integrity of this process at the forefront. So that's all I have. If you need anything, just let me know.
I think you should all give Ms. Dodd a virtual round of applause. She's put in a whole lot of work in this for several years now. And I very much believe that the reason why the quality of our state officer programs has gotten where it is today is because of hard work from people like her. So we owe her a lot. And we definitely couldn't do it without her. So thank you, Ms. Dodd. We appreciate it.
You're welcome. And thank you for that.
So a lot of you have had questions about what elections are going to look like this year. I have a whole section for you now about virtual elections. And what I would like for is Sarah to help me out here. Sarah, you have the list. Tell me who should answer the next question, because I've got a couple of them before we start.
Okay, do you want to ask the question first, or you want to give you the name?
You call the name, and then I'm going to ask the question of that person.
All right, let's do Caleb.
All right, Caleb. So here's a question for you. Why do you think it's critical, Caleb, that we have a fair and equitable election process for our FFA state officers?
I'm sorry, Mr. Cade, you like broke up for a second. Can you ask that again?
Sure. Why is it critical that we have a fair and equitable election process for our state officers?
Well, we need that because they're going to be our state's leaders for the year. So we want to make sure that we're choosing the right people that have that integrity and that honesty. So yeah, I think that's why we need that really fair process.
Cool. Thank you, Caleb. Sarah, who's next?
Up next is Gracie.
All right, Gracie, this is going to be very applicable to our current situation. So Gracie, without having all this modern technology, how do you think we could have possibly conducted officer elections this year?
I'm not really sure if we could have. I think we would have had to wait until state convention in August to do it without the technology that we have now.
Yep, I think you're spot on. And just so everyone understands, the reason why we have chosen to go electronic, the reason why our executive committee has approved this course is because the state officer team has responsibilities during the summertime that start immediately after election. One of the most critical ones is their participation in the National FFA State Officer Summit that kicks off the national delegate process. And we have two of our state officers, our president and our secretary, serve as our leadership delegates from our state in the national delegate process. And so if we would have missed that opportunity, our state wouldn't have been represented properly in the delegate process. There's training that you go through during the summer. We still want to provide programming for our members during the summertime. So it was very critical. It was very critical that we provided some form of election process that could start on time and get our state officers elected as they needed to. So I'm going to share with you the process that we have come up with this year for virtual elections. And as we go, if you have questions, put them in the chat. Sarah, I'm looking at the screen here. So if we have questions come through in the chat, go ahead and read them to me and I'll answer it as we go.
Yes, sir.
Our plan this year is to hold completely virtual elections. So tomorrow, at some point during the day, I'm going to email all of the advisors in the state a registration form. Every chapter will have to register in order to participate in our virtual elections. And there's a couple of reasons why. First off, the virtual election is going to require electronic voting codes. We have to know who to send those codes to, so we'll need a registration in order to do that. But secondly, per our Constitution, we base the quorum of our voting delegates on the number of delegates registered for the business session. And so currently we have 204 chapters statewide. If we were just to use that number and assume that a quorum of 204 were to show up, and if we didn't get 204 delegates to vote, technically none of this vote would count. And so we want to make sure that we're basing our delegate count on the number of chapters that intend to participate in the vote. Every chapter is absolutely welcome. We want every chapter to participate, but we can't require that they participate. And so we're going to base our voting quorum on the number of registered delegates. That registration is going to stay open for 3 weeks. On May 22nd, I'm going to email that list of registered chapters and advisors to WeCat Graphics. That is the company that puts together our website. They put together our convention app, and they've been working with about 5 or 6 states to run virtual elections during all of this quarantine process. I visited with Mr. Tyler. He's the owner of the company on Monday. He's in Arkansas right now, helping them prep for their virtual convention. They're running elections in Texas, Oklahoma, Georgia, Arkansas, I believe one of the Midwestern states they also operate for. And so he's going to do that with us also. So I went through the process with him. He has a system that we can use. So on May 25th, Mr. Tyler WeCat is going to email all of the advisors who have registered. He's going to email their voting codes on May 25th. And then we're going to hold a statewide practice voting session during that week so that the 2 delegates from every chapter have an opportunity to get online, to see what the voting page is going to look like, to practice, make sure they can use it so that we have plenty of time to work out any technology issues that may arise prior to the actual vote taking place.
Hey, Mr. Lejeune.
Yes, ma'am.
We have a question from Nathan. Can state officer candidates serve as voting delegates with the new process? Previously, when candidates ran, they weren't allowed to because they were a candidate.
Yes, any delegate can represent the chapter. And in the past, we have had state officer candidates have served as voting delegates at state convention. It's not uncommon for that to happen. But yes, in this process, we're not necessarily going to know who's voting. You're just going to have 2 voting codes per chapter. And so that's how that process will take place. As far as elections go, we've had questions. Well, what are we going to do about campaigning, and can we run off the floor? Yes, you can. The caveat this year is that you're going to have to send us a video of your campaign speech prior to the elections taking place. And the reason for that is we're going to have time to upload your campaign videos onto the voting platform. The campaign speeches and the elections are not necessarily going to be taking place live in real time. It's going to take place over a period of a few hours each day that the voting will be open. So for your campaign videos, there's several requirements you're going to have to meet in order for your video to be posted. First off, you'll have to be in official dress. You're going to have to be standing against a solid wall, so either a brick wall, a painted solid wall. There needs to be no artwork, nothing behind you that would give you an advantage over anyone else. You can't have any music, no props, no other people, no animals, no outside assistance, nothing other than just you in front of the camera filming your campaign speech. In accordance with our rules every year, your speech has to be no more than exactly 60 seconds from your first word until the time runs out. So once you say your first word, the timer starts on 60 seconds. And when you get to 60 seconds, that's it. The speech has to cut off. You're also going to have to submit a 30-second runoff speech, because in the event that there's an election off the floor and there's a need for a runoff, you'll have to have that 30-second runoff speech also. Because you're going to be submitting your speeches ahead of time, don't mention an office in your speech. Just talk about who you are, why you deserve to be a state officer, why you should be elected, whatever your catchphrase is going to be, leave it at that. But don't mention the office that you're running for, because you're not going to know that when you submit the speech. You're going to email those to us by May 25th. If it's too big, we can set up a shared folder for you to get it to us. By May 27th, we will respond to you if your video is not in compliance and if corrections need to be made. We'll give you until May 30th to get us the corrected video back, but that's going to be your only shot at getting it correct. So work really hard over the next month getting those videos accurate, getting them correct in accordance with the guidelines. Does anyone have questions on campaign videos? So the state nominating committee is going to meet. The committee will meet. You'll go through the interview rounds Saturday, May 30th and Sunday, May 31st via Zoom. That was the original date that was already scheduled for state nomcom. So we're keeping to the same schedule. It's just going to be virtual. We're going to read the state nomcom report on YouTube Live at 6 p.m. on Monday, June 1st. The committee is going to interview you on the weekend. They're going to come back together sometime Monday afternoon and make their final deliberation, select their slate of 10, and then that report is going to be read on YouTube Live at 6 p.m. on Monday, June 1st. So everybody in the state needs to tune in at that time. We'll share information of how to access it. We're also going to put live stream information on our website in big red letters on the homepage where everybody can see it and have access to it. Our primary concern through this entire process was making sure that every person on the face of the planet has access to what we're doing. And the two best ways of doing that is through YouTube, because everyone can access YouTube, and on our website, because everyone can access our website. So as long as you have internet connection and a device, you'll be able to participate. I've had people say, well, what if I don't have internet connection and a device? The fact of the matter is, guys and girls, we're in the year 2020. Everything we're doing right now, pretty much through the entire world, is being done through technology online. There's just no other way around that right now. So everyone in the state has about a month to make sure they can get their technology, their internet up to standard so that they can participate. We will do the primary elections at 6 p.m. on June 2nd. So what will happen is the nomcom report is going to be read on Monday, June 1st. We will give candidates a set number of hours to email Dakota, Jaden, and myself if they intend on running off of the floor and for what office. We will share that information with candidates probably early the next morning. Whenever the delegates who are registered go on to the voting website that the WeCat company is going to set up for us, they're going to see every office listed. So president, secretary, the 4 VPs down the line, they're going to see those offices, and they're going to see the names of the candidates who are running for each office. Next to each person's name is going to be a link to take them to the campaign video. So whenever it's time to start the election process, all the delegate will have to do is use the voting code to log onto the system, watch the videos, and then they're going to select from a drop-down list which candidate they're going to be electing. They're going to submit one ballot online, and it's going to immediately give us the results in the primary process. If there's a necessity of a runoff election, we will do the exact same process again the next day at 6 p.m. on June 3rd. We're going to announce all of these things via social media. We'll make sure people remember to get online and do it, and we'll be able to see real time as votes are coming in. Once the election process is finished, we're going to do an announcement of the new officers on YouTube Live at 6 p.m. on June 4th. That would have been the last day of the June convention. So we'll do the announcement then. Does anyone have questions on that timeline?
Hey, Mr. Lejeune.
Yes, ma'am.
We've got two. Megan is asking if we choose to run off the floor, do we get to choose which office? I think you just answered that.
Yes, just like our normal process, you can choose to run for any office you want, with the exception of the area VP situation, but you understand how that works. But yes, just like our normal process, we're not changing anything except for it's going to be done on a computer and not live in the arena.
Okay, and one more from Elizabeth. If our videos are shot within our ag building, are plaques and banners allowed to be in the background, or should they be removed?
You should have nothing behind you. We don't want to give you any kind of advantage other than your ability to speak in a campaign speech. Plaques and banners would be considered props, so get you a nice clear wall. Just as an FYI, and we'll send more detailed information about filming speeches, make sure you hold your phone horizontally, not vertically. Make sure that the sound quality is good whenever you record it so that there's no breakup in the sound and so that they all look uniform also. Any other questions, Sarah?
No, sir, you're good to continue.
Again, we're going to conduct the elections on our website. The web designer is going to create a page specific for our elections that the delegates will be able to access. Again, you'll get the unique 6-digit code that you'll have to enter. You're going to use that code to log on and to cast your vote. And again, you'll see a drop down with the candidate's name, select your choice, and submit one digital ballot. We will take the campaign videos. We're also going to post them up on our YouTube channel so everyone can see them. But specific for the delegates, that way everything is right there for them in a one-stop shop kind of situation, so that they have access to all of it. Also, if there's an issue where, for whatever reason, if a delegate can't access YouTube, or so they're not having to go back and forth between YouTube and the website, this is going to put everything in one location where they'll easily be able to access it. Does anyone have questions on our plan for these virtual elections? I know we have some advisors on the call. Do any of you have questions, or Sarah and Caitlin, Ms. Eaton, do y'all have questions on any of it?
Mr. Lejeune,
Yes, ma'am.
can you explain to me what run off the floor is?
Running off the floor means that if you are not one of the 10 that are slated by the nominating committee, but you've gone through the NOMCOM process, through parliamentary procedure and tradition in our state, you're allowed to nominate yourself, or to have, let me rephrase that, someone can nominate you, an official delegate can nominate you for one of those offices, and in which case we would have campaign speeches and an election. If there are no candidates running off the floor, we just simply vote by acclamation, and the 10 who are selected by NOMCOM become the state officers.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Any other questions?
Mr. Lejeune,
Yes, ma'am.
you want to explain that if a video is sent in that doesn't follow the guidelines, what process is going to take place right after that, so everybody knows?
Right. So again, they'll be due to us by May 25th, your 60-second campaign speech. If the video does not follow the guidelines, we will respond back to you by May 27th. As staff, we're going to watch all the videos and screen them. We will respond back to you by May 27th and tell you what to correct, and we will give you until May 30th to send us the corrected video, because we have to have all of them uploaded into the system by the time the elections process start on June 2nd. Are there any other questions?
We have two, Mr. Lejeune.
Okay.
From Mr. Cambry, should the video be shot on a phone or laptop for the candidate?
The way that it's shot doesn't really matter, just as long as it's good quality and it follows the guidelines.
And for Ms. Myers, will nominating committee choices be designated on the ballot?
They will be, yes, just like we normally do at state convention when we were using the clickers. It'll be on the website ballot. It'll show who NomCom's choices were. And yes, Mr. Cambry, they'll be first on the list, just like we've done at convention on the big screen. Again, the exact same process as much as we possibly can, with the exception that it's going to take place on the web page. Does anyone else have questions?
Well, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. Any programs that enhance videos? No, ma'am. It just needs to be the candidate in front of a blank screen or in front of a blank wall with them being filmed. We're trying to make this as fair and equitable across the board to understand that not every candidate has access to the same technology, but at minimum, you should be able to film yourself. And so just a plain blank video. Any other questions? And that kind of brings up a point. We've been talking about this, but I can't stress it enough. I understand that technology will definitely be the limiting issue that some candidates and even committee members could run into issues with. Right now, in the world we live in, this digital technology is the only way that we can continue carrying on our programs to any semblance of normalcy. So you've got from now until May 30th to work on your technology, get it fixed. If you have internet issues, there's places where you can go to get internet. If you have issues of accessing, try to find with your teachers, do you have access to a laptop? Does someone have access to you to a smartphone? You have a month to get these things figured out. And in reality, it's not a whole lot different than if we were going to be doing this live and in person. You'd still have logistical issues. How are you going to get to Alexandria? Who's going to pay to get you there? I mean, it's not like we don't have issues every year. This is just different with the technology. So please do your diligence over the next 30 days and get yourself prepared from the technology standpoint. Sarah, if there's no other questions, I'll turn it over to Caitlin. I believe she has our next section.
Yes, sir. You're good to go.
Thank y'all.
All right, guys. So I know that is a lot of information for you guys to take in. And I know all of it, every single piece of it is probably a little nerve-wracking. But let's take a breather for a sec. And let's talk about all the cool stuff that will happen if you are elected as a state officer. So the first person to type in FFA tag ag will answer this question for me. All right, Mason. In your opinion, what are some of the biggest responsibilities for a state officer?
I'm sorry, Caitlin, can you repeat that one more time?
Yeah, sure. In your opinion, what are some of the biggest responsibilities for a state officer?
Some of the biggest responsibilities I find for a state officer are that you're the model for FFA in Louisiana. People are looking up to you. You're what people think of when they think of Louisiana FFA and your year of office. So it's just that goal of holding up to a higher standard.
Right, yeah. So somebody who hasn't answered yet, type in FFA tag ag for the next question. Haley, all right. How do you think, I know this is kind of a crazy time with COVID-19, how do you think COVID-19 might affect the people who are elected next as state officers?
Do you mean the team that would be this upcoming state or the ones after us?
This next team.
Well, I believe that this period of time with COVID-19 is a very scary situation, but I believe that through our use of technology and being able to communicate effectively with each other, I feel that with our new team that we're going to have obstacles. That is always going to be a given, but I feel that with proper communication and passion for agriculture, I feel like we would be able to overcome those issues, whatever they may be. And I feel that even though COVID-19 is putting us in a virtual reality rather than with each other, we could still make things work for our FFA members, our chapter, our state. It's really who shows the most determination to make things work regardless of the situation that we're in.
Right. All right, Megan, can you answer this one for me? Because you're the next one to type in the chat. how do you think communicating with members is going to be different if it's all virtual?
I think communicating with members virtually is going to be different because normally state officers, you have the opportunity to meet members face to face and go to their chapters in schools and talk to them. Versus now, I think it's going to rely more on your social media presence and how you can connect to students via social media or maybe Zoom conferences like the state officers have been doing their Zoom or Google Meet workshops. And I think being able to handle that technology and being able to develop that new sense of communication is really going to be key as this year continues.
That is a great point. I know that I personally struggle a lot with technology, so that's going to be a big aspect for our next state officers. But let's talk about some of the cool stuff that you guys will get to do either way. With COVID and with what a traditional state officer is being like, there's a lot of things that you still will get to do. Let's talk about the first aspect, which is student leadership, okay? Being on a state officer, you get to be on the executive committee. The executive committee makes a lot of really big decisions for Louisiana FFA, and you guys will be getting to have a voice in that, and being a part of something like that is really important. That is some of the top leadership that you'll get to serve as in Louisiana FFA. You'll also engage in professional conversations with industry leaders, educators, and government officials. You guys, and that's people from outside of the state too. You guys will get to travel some, hopefully by the end of the year. We're not really sure how travel will work out with COVID, but I'm sure we're going to set up a lot of meetings for you guys to talk to some really important and intelligent people. You're also in charge of empowering our members. We have close to 12,000 members in the state, and you guys have the responsibility of making them feel like they have a voice, making them feel like they can do anything in the world that they want to. And that is a huge part of what being a leader means. The next part that you'll play in Louisiana FFA is the advocacy role. You'll do advocacy for the ag industry, agriculture education, and FFA. I know that we're starting to talk about advocacy a lot more, and I know National FFA is pushing it too. That's such an important role because you guys will be kind of the face of this organization that does advocate for ag ed and our members and FFA in general. So it's really, really important. Our next is, let's see, Ms. Lejeune, can you do the next slide for me? All right, yeah. So this is one of my favorite parts. Every part is so important, but because I get to work with you guys so often, I get to see how much you guys grow throughout the year. Personal growth is such it's insane to watch how much you guys learn and grow. Some of the things that you get to do is you get to spend the year traveling, hopefully. Once things start to settle down, hopefully you'll get to travel more. Salem got to travel all the way to Spain and Portugal this year. So that having like that eye-opening worldly kind of experience is really important for you guys. You'll also get to grow your skills in communication. I know when I was in high school, I definitely was never an extrovert at all. I'm still not an extrovert. I'm a high key introvert, but because I get to work with state officers and I got to work in FFA, my communication skills got 100% better. One thing you'll also get to do is networking, because you get to talk to all of those industry leaders and politicians and everything. You'll get to network with colleges and kind of find what path you kind of want to take after you're done serving. Time management is another thing that I hope every single one of you grow in, regardless if you serve as a state officer or not. If you are a state officer, managing your responsibilities and your schoolwork is a huge part especially for those of you who are in college. I know that can be a big workload. So it's really important that you guys take time to like learn and try to grow that skill as much as you can. Professionalism is also a huge part of being a state officer. I know Ms. Dodd talked about that a little bit. Maintaining positive and professional social media and other public platforms is so very important, not only for you to grow as a professional, but also because you represent our organization, and we take that very seriously. Also, you'll start to balance a lot more responsibilities. Like I said, schoolwork and FFA stuff, but you also have to travel for FFA stuff. So having responsibilities like that, it's really important that you take every responsibility that you have as a state officer very seriously. All right, next up, let's talk about some of the things that you will be responsible for. Facilitating workshops, that might be in a virtual space this year. And sometimes it might not be. So learning facilitation skills, learning speeches, being able to get up in front of people and convey what you want clearly and help them learn, and creating that learning environment is going to be a skill that you guys are going to be responsible for. You'll also be going to a lot of retreats, helping maybe chapter officers develop those skills that you guys have learned. As the state officer coordinator, I am going to push this one so hard. Due dates. If you are struggling with time management, that's okay. Let me know. But following due dates is such an important thing for a state officer to do, because we're all on a timeline. We all have a schedule. So that's something we really take seriously at the office. Traveling, of course, it's a lot of fun to travel, but it is a big responsibility to travel too. I think Ms. Eaton and Ms. Lejeune will talk later about what that kind of looks like for you financially, but traveling, making it to places on time, making sure that you're safely traveling is a huge responsibility. One thing that, maybe the biggest thing, is your commitment to Louisiana FFA. This is a year-long commitment that you're going to have to take seriously, that you're responsible for taking seriously. It's a lot, but it will totally be worth it in the end. It's so much fun. You're going to learn so much, but we really do want you to take this whole year-long active service very seriously. Another thing that might not seem like a responsibility is being a lifelong learner. In your year of service, you're going to learn a lot, but the biggest thing is that we want you to have that mindset of, you're going to learn a lot through this year, but we want you to have that open mind to learn more after your year is done. I get to see a lot of you guys after your year of service, and seeing how much you grow after is just as important to me as how much you grow in your year. Also, believe what you promote. Remember, you are an advocate for agriculture. You're an advocate for Ag Ed and an advocate for Louisiana FFA and National FFA even. But we want you to believe that, because passion is what makes you what makes you believable. If you're promoting something, you got to believe it. You got to have passion about it, okay? And always have an open mind when it comes to, like, if you go on an industry tour, have an open mind about what they might be telling you. I know some people have political opinions and some people have opinions about certain agricultural techniques. It's your job to be open to all of those, because you're an advocate for agriculture as a whole, and you're passionate about agriculture, Ag Ed, and FFA as a whole, not just parts of it. So make sure you keep an open mind about it. Always, always, always be positive and try to be a positive agent of change. This next year is going to be really crazy, and it's going to be hard. but you guys can make a change. Seriously, I know there's only going to be 10 of you, but 10 of you can really, really make a change in Louisiana FFA. You guys are responsible for making changes, positive changes in Louisiana FFA. Myself and the staff are going to set really high standards for you, but I want you guys to set high standards for yourself and your teammates. High standards in academic, moral, and ethical standards for yourself and each other. Be a shining example of what being an FFA member means. You guys will be in a spotlight, like I said earlier. So make sure that when a freshman walks into their classroom and they turn on one of the old speeches that you guys, maybe that you're in, that they see somebody that they want to be like, that they want to grow up to be like, that they want to grow in their FFA career to be like. And then one thing that we like to say in the office is IPK, which is initiative, positivity, and kindness. You guys are going to be responsible for having all three of those things throughout your year of service. Alrighty. Do you guys have any questions about your responsibilities and roles as a state officer?
Hey, Caitlin.
Yeah.
Nathan had the question. I don't know if you or Lejeune want to take this. I'm planning to take my fall semester off and attend LSU in the spring. Being in school is not a requirement to be a state officer, correct?
That's correct, Nathan. It's not a requirement.
All right, guys, anything else? Alrighty. I don't see any more questions. So we'll be giving this to Mr. Lejeune to talk about the schedule. I will also be heading off because I have a school presentation that I have to attend to. So it was very awesome to get to meet all of you. I can't wait to see you, see how you do it at NomCom, and good luck to you all. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I'm sure I'll get to talk to a lot of you before NomCom happens. So see you then.
Thank you, Caitlin. We appreciate all the hard work that you do. We're going to talk now about what your schedule looks like as a state officer. But before we do that, let's play a little game. I want you to imagine that you are preparing to go to National FFA Convention in October. And I want you to tell us, what are you going to pack in your suitcase to go to National FFA Convention? Keep in mind that state officers fly to Indianapolis on Sunday, and we fly back the following Sunday. So what are some things that you're going to pack in your suitcase? And Sarah, if you could help me out like we did earlier, if you can call on some people, that would be great.
All right, Drake, what are you packing in your suitcase?
Okay, so probably to start off, maybe some gloves, a face mask, and Lysol. Just to be don't want to be stuck there without it. But I'd probably end up packing an FFA manual. That way I know what I'm talking about, because I tend to also be a kind of person who something can skip my mind every now and then. I don't want to start talking about something that I have no idea what I'm saying in regards to FFA, especially at National Convention.
Sounds like you're a preparer, Drake. That's probably a good thing. It makes me laugh right now. All of the doomsday preppers are laughing at all the rest of us right now, saying, see, we told you, we told you. That's what's going on right now. Sarah, let's pick one more. What are you going to pack in your suitcase to go to National Convention?
Hey, Madeline, what are you packing?
Is it working?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead.
I was so ready to answer this question. I was waiting on y'all to call me. Okay, I would pack warm clothes. I live in the South, and I'm not used to the cold weather up there. So a lot of clothes.
Last year was the coldest I've ever had there. It's the first time I've seen snow in Indianapolis, so it can definitely get chilly. All right, Sarah, I've got one more question for them. Here's the next question. It's a really important one. How much time are you willing to commit to being a state officer?
Bryson, you want to take that one?
I'm willing to commit whatever time is needed. My priorities have narrowed down to FFA, so that's the reason I'm running. So really, outside of academics, academic events, I'd be able to commit any time that is needed.
Hey, Bryson, pull your camera up a little bit so we can see your face. We see like your chin.
My
There we
bad.
go. You're good.
Could y'all hear me?
Yeah, we heard you. All right, Sarah, find us one more. How much time are you willing to commit to being a state officer?
Sydney. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'm willing to spend as much time as needed. And being in FFA for about 3 years, I've spent the majority of my time already in FFA. And serving for a state office or as a state officer is a very big deal. So I'm willing to spend as much time as needed and prepare for whatever is needed, because in the end, FFA and agriculture is one of the most important things in my life. So being able to serve an industry or an organization that has given me so much would really mean everything to me. So.
Well, good. Thank you all for those answers. I would say this. We tell the state officer team all the time, I don't expect you to give up your entire life to be a state officer. It's still extremely important that you spend quality time with family and friends. For those of you that are going to be in high school, we're not going to make you miss important high school events like prom and graduation and those things that are once in a lifetime. For those of you in college, I understand that college schedules are extremely difficult to navigate, and we're going to work with you as much as we can to make sure that your life, that you can still have a life outside of state office. State office is going to be your job for 12 months. And just like I have a full-time job, my wife has a full-time job, you have to make time and prioritize the things in life that are permanent, like your family, like your faith and attending church and doing those things that are going to be with you forever. You have to maintain those during the year. But at the same time, right now, you're making a commitment to run for a state FFA office. And for the 10 of you that get elected, you make a commitment now that you're going to be committed for 12 months. And that even though state office is not going to be the most important thing in your life, it's going to be at least in the top 5 for the next 12 months. It's going to be your family, it's going to be your faith, it's going to be your school, and it's going to be being a state officer for 12 months. Because the work that you do as one of those 10 will impact 11,500 plus members and growing statewide. It's going to affect the entire agricultural education program in our state. It's even going to affect the entire agricultural industry in our state. That's an awesome responsibility for young people your age that we expect you to take seriously. So as you're going into this process of running for state office, yes, it's probably the most fun experience you'll ever have in your life. It's an awesome year, but it's a huge commitment. It's a very important commitment. And especially now with what's going on, everyone has to make decisions right now during this current pandemic of how do we stay relevant? How do we keep our programs alive? Because there are some businesses, there are some programs that are not going to survive coronavirus. They're going to go away. They're going to shut down. They can't function anymore. FFA in the state is not going to be one of those things. We have a vital role in the state right now to keep providing quality education and instruction for our students, to make sure that our teachers still have the ability to do the jobs that they've committed their lives to, and to make sure that we keep advocating for the agriculture industry, which is such a critical piece of news right now with all that's going on. So I would say that this coming year, this state officer team is going to probably have one of the most important years ever in the history of FFA in this state, in America, as far as keeping the program alive. So understand that awesome responsibility that you're undertaking and why it's so important that you commit yourself up front. So when we look at the schedule going forward, keep in mind that just like we've been posting on all of our social media sites, on our website, every date that is currently scheduled is still up in the air. None of this is guaranteed. Some of the virtual ones are probably locked in, but most of these other dates, I can't sit here and tell you right now that this is absolutely going to happen on these dates, because we just don't know next week, next month, 4 months from now, what travel is going to look like, what being able to attend facilities and conferences is going to look like. So you're going to have to be very flexible with us this year as we try to navigate what's ahead. I can tell you this for certain. The 10 of you who are elected, your first training will be base camp, and it's going to be done virtually this year on June 9th through the 12th. So you can put those down on your calendar. That training is going to include work by Lainey. She's going to give you a training on how to conduct business and industry tours and how to interact with stakeholders. We're going to be bringing in a past Louisiana FFA state officer who's now a professor of leadership out of state who wants to do a training with you on servant leadership. And then you're going to get 3 days of the National FFA Base Camp delivered virtually. Typically, that is the first in-person training that state officers have. Because of our situation, it will be virtual this year, but we are going to try to make that up for you. At some point, National FFA offers checkpoint trainings. We won't do the first checkpoint until we can do a physical in-person gathering where the National FFA facilitator will come down to our state and you as a team will get that bonding time together. I don't have a date yet of that first checkpoint. Hopefully it will be by the end of the summer. It could be early fall. It just depends on the situation that goes. We did find out this week that the Washington, D.C. State Officer Summit has been moved to a virtual setting for this year. So that means that we're not traveling to Washington, D.C. in July. It looks like the city of Washington is probably not peaked yet with their coronavirus pandemic, so it's just not going to be possible to send 400 state officers to Washington. They've also canceled all of their dates of Washington Leadership Conference this summer for the first time ever. So it's just not possible this summer for that to take place. So all of the work that we do through Summit will be virtual this year. Probably going to be at the end of July. It's normally like the last full week of July when that is scheduled. We haven't gotten the actual dates on that yet. Our delayed postponed state convention is currently scheduled for August 3rd through the 6th in Alexandria. We're going to be releasing a detailed schedule on May 15th once we finalize it. We're planning to open registration again on June 1st. We're going to be starting over with convention, so you can let your advisors know this. If they've registered for convention already, we're deleting all of those registrations and starting over because the schedule is going to be different. Some of the offerings may be different, and I know that students who were probably planning to attend are not going to be the same either, and that goes the same for housing. All the hotel reservations for June have been canceled. They'll have to re-reserve on June 1st once that opens up. The first 2 days of convention, August 3rd and 4th, are going to be dedicated to making up our state CDEs that we missed in March. So the Monday will be all of the spring judging events. The Tuesday is going to be our normal state convention CDEs like farm business management and food science. We're going to start the career expo that afternoon on August 4th at about 3 o'clock, and we're going to do the first session that evening. And then the next 2 days will just be sessions to make up for all of our awards. It looks like we've been able to salvage the entire convention schedule except for area nominating committee. We'll have to figure that one out later as we go, but I'm confident that if we're allowed to keep those dates and if we can go to Alexandria and meet in person, that the majority of our convention schedule will be salvaged. As the newly elected state officer team, you're going to be installed on Thursday, August 6th. So if nothing else, make sure you're there if you're not competing in anything else or participating in anything else. The current 1920 state officer team is still going to host this convention. It's still their convention. So you would be there to be installed as the new state officers. I do not currently have an answer for you on leadership camp. We couldn't do it in July because of social distancing issues. We don't know yet when that could be rescheduled. The new state officer team may have to consider what could virtual camps look like. We just don't know yet. We are trying to do physical in-person leadership camps to be made up sometime in August or September, but that really depends on availability of facility, and it depends on what are the requirements going to be as far as occupancy in a building and social distancing issues. So we'll keep working on camp, keep checking back for updates on it. Same thing with our normal area officer training that's normally held in August or September. That's TBD until we can determine facilities what the requirements are going to be. As of yesterday, National Convention is still scheduled. We had Dr. Nina Crutchfield on the teacher call with us. She said National FFA is still planning to host a convention. It's scheduled this year for October 28th through the 31st. Again, that's subject to change. It could be a scaled back version of convention. We just don't know yet because of we don't know where coronavirus is going to be come October. But as of right now, that is still scheduled. So clear your calendars if you're going to be a state officer. We always do another state officer checkpoint training in the wintertime. We've done it in December the past few years. We've been running into issues with final exams and Christmas holidays and vacations. So Caitlin and I talked that we will probably schedule this one for early January, sometime right after January 1st. is when this one would be scheduled. You'll have your state officer Christmas party then. It'll be a Christmas/New Year's party, and you'll do your further checkpoint training. This training is where we start state convention planning. We give you training on speech writing and delivery, since you're going to do a lot of your banquet speeches in the springtime. National FFA Week next year is February 15th through the 19th. We don't do an in-person Goodwill tour anymore because we're trying to get state officers to visit more chapters. But we do want to enhance the programming that we offer next year during National FFA Week. And then going into the spring, we still wouldn't have dates at this point anyway. We don't release our calendar until usually July. But I can tell you that SLDC is normally in the middle of March. This year, I may go back to Franklin High School again. Since we weren't able to go there this year, we might give Mr. Adams and his chapter a do-over and go back to Franklin. State CDEs are normally in March or April. That just depends on Easter breaks and when the LSU Ag Center or Parker Coliseum is available. Capitol Day is normally in early April. And then our state convention for next summer is scheduled for June 7th through the 10th. So make sure you have that on your calendar. We do business industry tours at multiple times during the year. We'll get your school schedules and find out what's going to be your best availabilities. And then you'll also do chapter visits during the year. The state officers had a goal this year that they would each visit 10 chapters, which would mean we would visit half of our chapters in the state this year. And then next year, your team would visit the other 100 chapters. We didn't quite make it there because everything had shut down, but we did visit probably, Sarah, would you agree, somewhere between 50 and 60 chapters had gotten a chapter visit prior to the travel restriction. So they were well on their way of hitting that goal. We felt that that was very important, that as a state officer team, you get out more. Before this year, we would wait for advisors or students to send us state officer requests, and then we would go. We decided this year it was going to be better to be proactive and just say, hey, we're coming to visit your school. When do you want me there? And work with them. There were a lot of schools that said it was a huge benefit to have those state officers on site. It was a big inspiration for their members. So that's definitely a program that we want to continue to reach out to schools and get them chapters. We had state officers visit chapters this year that had never had a state officer visit. And it was really cool to see how their members reacted to that and kind of, took that as a motivation opportunity. Do any of you have questions on the typical schedule? Again, I say typical. We know next year is not going to be typical, especially not through the summertime. I'll tell you this, we're doing everything we can, just like we've done with the current state officer team, like we're going to do with you, to give you the most normal state officer experience that we possibly can. We don't take delight in our office the fact that we had to cancel virtually all of our spring events. That is not a fun thing. That is not what I took this job for. I know it's not what your advisors want. It's not what you want. It's not an ideal situation. So we will make every effort that we can do legally within the governor's orders, within school district allowances, to make sure that you have as normal of a state officer year as you can. But you also need to come prepared with the understanding that we're probably going to have to get creative with a lot of it too. And that's going to take a lot of work from you as state officers to come up with alternative plans of how do we keep engaging our membership, our teachers, our stakeholders with ag education and FFA during this uncertain time. So again, do any of you have questions? Sarah, do you have any questions? Advisors, do y'all have questions that I can answer for you right now? And I see that we have some current state officers are joining the call. They're going to do a Q&A with you here in just a little bit. Miss Eaton, are you still on the call?
Yep.
Perfect timing. If y'all don't have any questions on schedule, Ms. Eaton and I are going to go over policies and procedures with you from our standpoint in the office, things that we would expect from you. Ms. Eaton can tell you how she wants things turned in and that sort of thing. So keep close attention here. This will make or break your state officer year. Ms. Eaton will be your very best friend that you will have as a state officer, and we want to keep her happy because she does an awesome job keeping all of us in line. The first thing, the most important thing immediately right out of the gate is that you have to submit a copy of your driver's license or your state issued ID with your state officer application. You have to have it immediately. And the reason why is because of booking plane tickets. If we visit certain government facilities where you have to have an ID to get in, I have to know that you have an ID that you'll be allowed in. We had an issue a few years ago with driver's licenses booking plane tickets for Summit. Now, again, we're not going to have that issue this year because we're not going to DC in July. But, we have to book those plane tickets right away during a normal summertime program, and so we have to have your driver's license. There's a place on the state officer application where you can upload a picture of your driver's license. So make sure you get that done for us right away. If you don't have a driver's license or a state issued ID, you need to go get one. I know that with government shutdowns right now, it's been a little challenging, but I do believe that DMVs have been opening up either remotely. Contact your local DMV and figure out how you can go out and get you a state issued ID. Oh, I'm sorry. I go back. We don't expect state officers to pay anything out of pocket during the course of your year. The only thing you're going to pay for is going to be like your pants, your skirts, your shoes. Everything else we're going to provide. And Ms. Eaton can give you some more information on this, but we provide you reimbursements. If you do pay out of pocket, if you go on a trip on your own that we're not with you and you have to pay for something, we will reimburse you. Ms. Eaton, do you want to go a little more into detail about your requirements for a reimbursement, what we will reimburse, what we won't reimburse?
Well, probably it's going to be a case-by-case basis, what we'll reimburse. And a lot of it's going to be predetermined by Mr. Lejeune. We do reimburse mileage. We reimburse meals. And you'll see whenever you do your officer expense requests, how much you're allowed, what we'll need. I'll need a copy. If you eat out anywhere, I need a copy of the receipt. If you travel, you need to just keep track of your mileage and put it on that form. As far as your jackets, I need all of that information. Is that on the their applications, Mr. Lejeune?
I believe it is, and if it's not, I'll definitely ask.
It is on the application, Miss Eaton.
Okay. Now, for y'all that's been in quarantine, if you've gotten fluffier and you get elected, let me know, because I'm going to order what's on this paper, what's on your application. If you've lost weight, let me know. I don't want your jackets to be too big or too small. They need to fit. So just make sure that you're taking a look at that. You're going to get your jackets in August. Once we get elected, I'm ordering coats. I'm ordering jackets. I'm ordering polos for you. I'm ordering business cards. So make sure that your sizes are correct. That's very important.
Make sure your sizes are correct and make sure your name on the application is correct too, because that's what's going to go on your business cards and any other publication that we do. So check your applications, make sure all of that information is accurate.
And Mr. Zern, we're going to get them together for portraits, or we don't know that yet?
I mean, we're going to take pictures at some point. You do take your official state officer portrait. We'll do individual headshots and we'll do group headshots. I don't know when that's going to be yet. Ms. Eaton referenced the online form. For those of you that get elected, I'll send you a link. You'll just use that same link every time. It takes you to a form site document that you'll do your reimbursements on. We'll buy you one FFA jacket for the year. Under emergency circumstances, if something happens to it, we'll get you another one, but we expect you to keep up with that jacket. Get it dry cleaned as regularly as you need to so it doesn't smell bad, so it doesn't get dirty. Make sure you keep up with it. We have enough money, to provide you with things you need, but we don't have an unlimited supply. So please keep up with the things that we have for you.
Yeah. As far as reimbursements go, I tried to get to them within 2 weeks. Don't expect an immediate turnaround. A lot of times, sometimes I'm busy. So just need y'all to be patient. Up to about 2 weeks.
As it regards travel, like we said, if you're going to drive, you have to have a driver's license. Please don't drive anywhere without a license and get arrested. We're not going to provide bail money to get you out of jail. We're not going to pay for your tickets that you get from the state police because you drive too fast. None of that is reimbursable. So make sure you're following the law whenever you're driving. You have to have a driver's license, registration, and proof of insurance. If you don't have those things and something happens to you, your parents are going to be liable, your school's going to be liable. Otherwise, you fall under the LSU Ag Center's liability insurance, but you have to be legal in the way that you're performing. If you're doing an official duty as a state officer, you're covered under the Ag Center's liability insurance. We reimburse you 50 cents per mile when you drive your vehicle on official business. Now, I'll say this. We will not reimburse you to drive. So let me give you an example. If you're on campus at a university, we don't reimburse you to drive home from the university. That's not what you get reimbursed for. You get reimbursed from wherever you are when the request comes in for you to go somewhere to that place and back to where you stay. That's what you're going to get reimbursed for. It is extremely critical as state officers. I know it's not necessarily the situation for all of you. You have to have a vehicle. If you don't have a vehicle, you need to make arrangements with your parents or with another state officer to minimize the amount of mileage that you have to build up. 50 cents per mile doesn't sound a lot, but when 10 state officers are going full speed through the year at 50 cents a mile, that gets extremely expensive. Miss Eton, what do we reimburse in mileage in a normal year?
Oh.
30, 40, $50,000?
Yeah, at least.
It's the biggest expense that we have as an association. And so, considering the opportunity that you're getting, we need you to be really good stewards of our FFA members' membership dues, because that's how we pay for these things and through the work of the foundation. So please carpool, 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 figure out ways to minimize the amount of mileage that we have to reimburse to each of you. If you pay for breakfast, lunch, or dinner on an official trip, we'll reimburse you for those meals. That's rare, though. Normally, we're all together, and we'll pay for your meals whenever we're together. When we are together, you don't pay anything out of pocket. Now, we won't reimburse souvenirs, fun things. Our own time, we won't reimburse. Sometimes we'll pay for the team to go do something entertainment-wise. We'll do that when you're together as a group, but that's all going to be planned. If you just choose as a group, hey, we're going to go play Top Golf when we're in Baton Rouge, well, you know what, have fun. Not reimbursing you for that. So just think about those things as you go through. Also, you need to be willing to fly in an airplane. I don't know if there's any of you who have not flown before, but our trips last year to National Convention, we flew to Nashville, we flew to DC. There's times that it's much more economical for us to put you in an airplane and fly you somewhere than it is for us to drive. So if you have reservations about getting on an airplane, let us know. Again, with coronavirus, I don't know how that's going to impact air travel, but at some point we're going to be getting back to normal. We're going to be getting back on airplanes again. So keep those things in mind. If any of you are TSA pre-check, that is awesome. If you plan on flying a lot over the next few years, I would recommend you go do it. My wife just got it. How much did you pay for it?
$85 for 5 years.
$85 for 5 years, and you never have to go through the TSA line. So if you're going to be a frequent flyer, that's something to consider. It definitely saves time in the airport. Ms. Eton, you have anything else on travel?
Hey, Mr. Lejeune.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Eton. There's a question. Will state officers be required to get a bank account to get reimbursed?
No, I mail a check directly to you.
However you cash that is, between you and your parents.
You can just cash it. I mean, at a bank with an ID. We bank with Chase. So if you have a Chase bank, in your area, you can just go and cash it there.
If you end up getting stranded in an airport, hope that Miss Eton is with you. She'll take care of you. She has done that several times with our state officer. She does a really good job of it. Talk to some of the past state officer teams about their experiences in the Houston airport with Miss Eton, and they'll tell you that she is a lifesaver, and you better treat her really well because she'll definitely look out for you. As far as wardrobe goes, we will supply your jacket, your ties, your scarves, your polos. You're going to be responsible for purchasing pants, skirts, and shoes. We don't have the funding for that right now to pay for that as a whole for the state officer team. They do need to coordinate. I don't necessarily care what style you get. Sarah, Caitlin, the girls in the office can give you much more guidance and advice on that, but as long as they coordinate and they match, we have no problem if girls wear pants. It's the year 2020. I think pants look fine. It's just as professional as a skirt is on girls. I leave that up to the state officers to how y'all want to handle it. So that's completely up to y'all if y'all want to do that or not. But you will be in proper official dress whenever you're in official dress. Definitely keep that in mind. Sarah is going to help me out on the social media part because it's something that we have to discuss every year. Social media is a wonderful tool for us to use. It's been fantastic during this quarantine time to be able to reach out to members, to stay engaged with them. But you know as well as I that it can be a huge problem also because of the nature of you get an idea in your head and you just go spout it for the world to see. First off, I would recommend you not do that. I would definitely think about what it is for the world to see because once you put it out there, you're never going to get it back. So keep those things in mind. But as far as it comes being a state officer, as a staff, we reserve the right to police your social media and to take action on it. Now, I'll say this. I'm 33 years old. I'm a lot older than all of you. I'm not going to be friends with any of you. I'm going to be your executive secretary. I'm going to work with you in that regard. I'm not going stalk state officers, members, area officers on social media. I don't do that. That's creepy. But if a student worker, if an advisor, if a member, if anybody reaches out to me and says, hey, one of these state officers has something extremely inappropriate on social media, I'm going to get proof of it, and then we will deal with it in conformity with our policies and procedures that are outlined by the executive board. You can be removed from the state officer team because of things that you put on social media. So please, please, please be smart about it. Act like a grown-up state officer when you get elected. I would recommend you start doing that now, because when people find out you're going to be a state officer candidate, they're probably going to start stalking you now on social media to see what you're posting. Use your social media for positive promotion of the program, to talk about positive things in life. Don't put things on social media that are negative, that are going to look badly upon you, on your FFA chapter, on the program, on anybody, really. Be really positive with your social media use. Sarah, do you have anything to add to that?
Yes, sir. The committee, I think, is getting trained on Monday. Now, let me tell you, if you think that that committee is not going to stalk you and try to know who you are before the process, you are so wrong. Please, the worst thing that you can do to ruin your shot at getting selected as a state officer is to have inappropriate social media, whether that be bad. I think the new thing is TikTok. Don't have inappropriate TikToks. They'll find you and they will create ideas about you before you even start the interview. Clean up your Instagram. Don't have any unprofessional posts. Your Snapchats. I have some of you on there, and if you're an area officer, you know that I stalk you on there. Don't be ranting about things that don't matter, whether it be political views or negativity. Don't be snapping and driving. That is illegal. So why are you putting it on social media? Stop it. Please clean up your social media. If you have a question like, oh, should I keep it? Should I not? Delete it. If it's even questionable, delete it. If you want to reach out to me or Caitlin or even Mr. Lejeune saying, hey, I don't really know if I should keep this up, we're more than happy to help you, but please take some time ASAP to go clean up your social media. That is my biggest piece of advice for y'all going into this process right now.
For the 10 of you that get elected, there will be an expectation and commitment form that we'll go over and sign at your election, and it will cover the steps of what happens if you fail to live up to these commitments. I mean, this social media thing even goes back to the National FFA Code of Ethics of how you should be behaving and in a professional environment. Remember, this is not just going to impact you now running for state office. Your future employment is going to look back on what you're putting on social media, and it could make or break you getting jobs and promotions in your job. So please start learning how to regulate what you do on your social media sites. Communications wise, we do send out a weekly update to all of our state officers and staff. We expect you to read it. We expect you to respond to it. That's the easiest way for me to keep information flowing to our officers and our staff weekly. So start getting into the habit of checking emails, reading emails daily. I don't expect you to check your email 20 times a day, but you at least need to find a certain time of the day when you check email and you respond to them. Please don't give out our cell numbers. We've shared our numbers with you. We're going to share them with you again. That is not for public consumption. My cell phone number, most of the ag teachers have it. My family has it. State officers have it. People I work with. I'm going to give it to you because we may need it during this process. But if I start getting random phone calls and text messages over the next couple weeks, I'm going to know that it probably came from this meeting today. So please make sure that you respect our privacy also and don't give out those numbers. We will share additional expectations with you later on if you get elected. Ms. Eaton, do you have anything else you want to share on policies and procedures?
Not that I can think of right now.
Hey, Mr. Lejeune, we have a question.
Okay.
I don't have any social media. Would I need to get one for state office? I know it sounds silly, but I've never seen a state officer without a social media.
I'll say this. Well, do I say that you have to have social media? No, I will not mandate that you have social media. Is it helpful as a state officer that you have social media? Absolutely. Because literally thousands and thousands and thousands of FFA members and FFA supporters engage on social media platforms. If you don't have one, you can't engage with them in that space. Social media is one of the greatest technological inventions ever to come out in the 21st century, and it's one of the worst technological inventions ever to come out in the 21st century. It's so day and night on its positivity and its negativity. If you use it for positive purposes, if you use it to promote FFA activities, I mean, if you follow our state pages on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and you're sharing what we do, you're going to open up people to be able to see what FFA is. So it's definitely helpful if you have it, but no, I cannot compel you to get an account.
To add on to that, Mr. Laterne, I have actually served on a state officer team with someone who didn't have social media at all, no Snapchat, no Instagram, nothing. And she kind of made the decision to make an Instagram once she was elected. And all she did is post periodically like her experiences as a state officer. So it wasn't something for her to share her entire life with, because I know that some people aren't comfortable with that. But if she went on a chapter visit or national convention, she would post pictures for that, for those members to follow her. So if you get elected and social media isn't your thing, of course you don't have to be forced to, but I have seen in the past people just make like an FFA social media if they get elected.
Does anyone else have questions? I appreciate all the questions y'all been asking today, by the way. I think they've been really well thought out. They're very, very relevant to what we're doing here today. And I'm very, very thankful of the engagement that we've been getting. We were a little nervous going into this conference today about how well is it going to go. I think it's gone really well so far. So we appreciate how you've engaged with us. Does anyone else have questions? If there's no other questions, we're going to take another short break. We have some of the current state officers getting onto the call with us. It is 11:43. Let's come back and we will restart at 11:55 and we'll do question and answer with the 2019-20 state officer team. So at 11:55, if you can come back on like we did last time, if you want to stay here in the chat and visit with each other, feel free to do that. We'll get with the state officers and get set up. If you have any other questions you think of for when we come back, we'll be happy to answer them. So let's take a break until 11:55.
Is this thing working? Can everybody see?
I
can
can see you,
Zach.
Zach. And I can hear you, Zach. What is that painting behind you?
Oh, this was a handmade painting that my mom had when she was in high school. Her dad got it made in the Philippines.
That's dope.
Brittany is transforming our house. All of our artwork is becoming Louisiana themed. So every time we see something with Louisiana, it gets put up on the wall in the house now.
Yeah, this is of the Philippines when they lived there.
I got you.
But yeah.
Mason, what is that floral painting behind you? Is that also an original painting?
So I'm currently in one of the executive offices at my for the company I work for, and so this is my boss's painting. I don't know. My mom's office is right there, and I can tell you about some of the artwork in there because I was there when they got that. But that's just a building painting that we have. Don't know where it came from. I don't have an interesting story like Zach.
How many advisors do we still have on the call with us? It's like they're all being shy. They don't want to talk.
Mr. David Cambry is still on.
I'm scrolling down. I see a few.
I think I count 3.
What's that?
I think I count 3 advisors.
See 3. We've been doing a call with the advisors every Wednesday at 11 o'clock, kind of like we do here. We figured, you know what, we send them a written update twice a week, but we haven't seen anybody since like March, so it would be fun to hear voices and see faces to go with updates. So it's kind of become the 11 a.m. Wednesday Ag Teacher Happy Hour in a way.
Hey, can all the candidates turn their camera on so I can get a picture for the Louisiana FA Instagram?
That's gonna be a lot of cameras on, Zach. You know you're only gonna be able to see 4 of them.
He's right.
Yeah, you'll
I
see.
don't even have a camera.
Oh, it's not like Zoom where it like does everybody.
Oh.
You'll see 4.
Zoom is.
I don't even have a
That's
camera
right.
on. So.
Oh
You
goodness.
can have some then mute the camera and others turn the camera on, and then you just catch a bunch of them that way.
Can I just
And
say
then you
it's
just hear
nice
me.
to see a bunch of people?
You're right.
Yeah.
Haley's got it right up in here.
Mm-hmm.
Too bad. All right, I'm gonna turn my camera off so everybody can see. No, maybe this won't work. I don't know.
I think if they talk with the camera on, it'll pull them up on the screen, Zach.
Yeah, it's like a speaker view. Whoever speaks gets the main view.
Zach, what if you try with your computer? It might let you pull up more than just on your phone.
No, on the computer it does the same thing.
I'm using my computer and it's only pulling up 4.
Yeah, that's how Microsoft Teams works. We use this for our company, and this is how it always works.
So maybe if like 2 other candidates.
Yeah, Sadie, turn your camera off to where he can get pictures of his candidate.
Let me get.
Just
Hey,
do like
Zach, Mr. Head had a pretty good idea in the chat.
Yeah, just look what Mr. Head said to do. Do it that way. So Zach, just call out 4 people at a time. Tell them to put the camera on and say hello, and then you should be able to catch them.
Can y'all still hear me?
Sure can.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh.
So candidates,
Hi,
just start
y'all.
turning on your cameras.
Since Mason is on, let's get Sadie, Sydney Walker, and then I have 2 candidates with me that are using my computer because I don't have one, so we'll just use them for the other.
Hey, Nate.
What's that?
What's up, guys?
I can't see Sydney or Sadie yet.
You can't see me.
Okay,
What
can
the
y'all hear me?
heck?
We just need some candidates to turn on their.
Oh, I see Sadie.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
said
mine's on.
Thank you for the idea, Mr. Head.
We just need 2 more people to turn on their cameras.
Nathan, your hair is so long now.
Yes.
Yeah.
You growing a mullet there, bro?
Okay, there's Megan.
Definitely the mullet's coming in. We all need to go to the barber. That's a fact.
Okay.
You know, Nathan's gonna go to the barber and not cut his hair.
No, Nathan's gonna cut the sides off. He's gonna keep that mullet. I could see you with a mullet. I really could. I could see you with a mullet.
Oh yes.
Since Sydney
Mullet man,
having
Nathan.
technical difficulties, maybe let me think of another person. I see, maybe Faith. Faith, can you get your camera on?
Yeah, it's on.
Is it on?
Yeah. I've been trying to turn on my camera.
Hey, Megan.
The camera. Hey.
The microphone.
Everyone smile.
I don't know.
Hey, we got 4 of them.
Oh, there's the 4th one. Good job.
It's still on the thing.
All right, I'm gonna turn mine off to where you can get more pictures, Zach.
I don't know what.
I got in the picture. I got Mason, Sydney, and Sadie.
You took a picture?
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't ready.
She wasn't
I'll just slide my way right in here.
Haley, yeah, Haley,
Yeah, that's what
Throw
I'm saying.
yourself up on the chat.
Oh yeah, post it up.
Hey, turn your camera on.
Also, Nathan loving the mullet.
See, Mullet Man Nathan.
I remember the conversation we had about it.
I think that'll be his nickname, Mullet Man Nathan. That's a pretty dope nickname if you ask me.
My hair is getting long too. My mom tried to cut my bangs, but she made them all crooked, and so I have to keep putting it back into my hair so no one notices it.
I have not gone to the barber, and it is rough.
My grandma tried to get me to cut her hair the other day and color it too. But
The struggle is real out here.
I told her no. I was so scared I was going to mess it up because she's so picky about her hair.
Everyone I know right now is coloring their hair, and I'm just like, nah. I was like,
Oh my gosh, I want to color mine.
Just start in a few minutes. We're just kind of like gonna skip that idea. That's not really.
A for effort, Zach. I'll give it to you. A for effort. You tried.
Thanks, Mason. Appreciate it.
No problem, Zach. You
The
know,
best thing about living in my house is that my wife's a cosmetologist, so we've been just fine in the hair department.
Oh, that's not even fair.
We got haircuts, what, 2 weeks ago?
That's not even fair.
Everybody.
That's not even fair.
Your wife is a
Look
jack
at,
of all
look
trades.
at, this is a mess.
Sure is.
Look,
You know what?
That's a
Shout out
mess.
to my wife because she's standing here next to me in the sunroom. This PowerPoint here, she designed all of it for me last night. I said I don't know what I'm doing, and so she just came and put all the graphics together for us.
All
You
right,
know, I mean, she's designed our face masks for us. Gabriel and I are gonna have a Darth Vader mask, and she and Claire have.
I want to
little
see
print ones.
that.
I think she needs a round of applause, everyone. Just,
Wait, so then
What did I miss? Where did Darth Vader come into it?
it's going all over. It started off with Zach trying to take a picture of us all, and then that went down.
It just went downhill from there.
Yeah, and then we got into haircuts, and then Mr. Lejeune was talking about his wife being a cosmetologist.
Mason, I've learned how to cut hair over this. I'll come over there and give you a haircut when this is all over.
So
Well,
I mean, I got a
mine's
set of
not
pig
done.
clippers.
Mine's not done, but this is Gabriel, so you can see the little Darth Vader.
Oh, that's cool.
That's cool.
I probably could make a mask. I know how to sew. I can do this.
Good for you. I don't even know how to sew a button.
I know how to run a 14 needle embroidery machine.
Oh, look at you, Mr. Fancy.
14 needle embroidery machine. My hair is a mess.
So we just gonna
I
flex
started-
the FFA water bottle right here.
I started quarantine with the
You've had
mullet.
that water bottle for so long.
I know.
That was from your first officer.
I know, my first officer retreat. We still hold on.
Mine got ran over from last year.
I remember that.
I feel like we all have random FFA water bottles laying around.
Oh,
No, we all have
100%.
random FFA things everywhere.
I
I have
more FFA
FFA
shirts
everything.
than I do normal shirts.
Hey, Zach.
You are not wrong.
Yeah.
Zach, how do you stiff arm in Madden?
What? Out of left field, stiff
Yeah.
arm Madden.
Maybe X. Yeah. No.
Are you playing Madden right now while we're all on a chat?
No, I was asking him because I bought it yesterday, and then I kept getting stiff arm and got mad.
Quarantine problems.
Poor Matthew.
They're the best kind of problems, though.
All right, guys. It's now 11:56. So can we mute our videos and microphones real quick? I know the Madden conversation is fascinating, but we
Bye,
can
guys.
long pause.
Bye.
Alrighty, so we are in for a treat because we have some members of our current state officer team that are here to answer some questions that you might have about the process, since they're the last ones to go through it, and about their year of service. So state officers, I think I have all your names that are here. Whenever I call on you, go ahead, introduce yourself, where you go to school, and tell me and all of us your favorite quarantine hobby. So Tristan, you want to start us off?
Sure, I'll go. So my name is Tristan Foray. I'm currently a freshman at Louisiana State University studying agricultural education. And I don't know if so where I'm from. I'm from Racine, Louisiana. And my favorite quarantine hobby has been doing quite a bit of fishing.
Sweet. Zach?
Can't wait. Can you hear me? Can everybody hear me?
We got you.
Hey y'all, my name is Zachary Mayfield. I'm currently serving as the state FFA reporter. I go to LSU and I major in agriculture education. I'm from Slidell, Louisiana, so just right north of New Orleans. And my favorite quarantine hobby, I tried to finish school early, but so I can enjoy playing golf. But that's been my favorite quarantine hobby so far. But other than that, it's school, so that's fun. But yeah.
Nice. Very much the same for me. Matthew?
My name is Matthew Phillips. I currently attend LSU, and recently I just been working on the sugarcane farm, just fixing our fields and getting ready for plant season. That's about it.
Nice. Dakota?
Hey guys, I'm from the Flooring FFA chapter, and I'm currently serving as the Louisiana State Secretary, and I'm majoring in nursing at the University of Lafayette.
What's your favorite quarantine hobby, Dakota?
Baking. I'm sorry, I forgot that.
It's okay. Salem?
Hey everybody, my name is Salem. Unlike all the rest of the people, I'm not in college yet, youngest on the team. I'm from I go to Lakeview High School where I'll graduate, and I am going to LSU next year. But my favorite quarantine hobby is I bought some painting by numbers things because I can't paint by myself. So I bought some painting by numbers thing, and I've been doing that. So it gets addicting because I just want to hurry up and finish.
Nice. Jaden?
Hey guys, I'm Jaden. I'm serving as a state president this year. I'm from Natchitoches, Louisiana, and I currently attend Northwestern State University. And currently, for the last 4 days in quarantine, I've been trying to find Harry Styles' concert tickets. So that's been my hobby for most of the time.
Nice. Victoria?
Hey guys, I'm Victoria Hickton. I'm currently a freshman at LSU, and my favorite quarantine hobby is spending time outside and also binge watching Dance Moms.
All right, Lindsay, wrap it up for us. Is Lindsay on?
Can y'all hear me?
Okay. Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay. Hey, y'all. I'm Lindsay Detraw. I'm from Kaplan, Louisiana. I'm currently going to McNeese State University and majoring in agriculture education. And so my favorite quarantine hobby, it just started recently because I've been so bored. And I went on a wild win last week, and I bought 2 very things that have been keeping me very busy, and that is a pool and a puppy.
Sweet.
So those are my hobbies right now.
Nice. Thank you. There's no other state officers on here, correct? I think I got everybody, but if not, just correct me. Okay, so for the candidates, this is a really awesome opportunity to get to ask any questions you have for our current state officer team. So if you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat like we've been doing, and we'll ask and the state officers can answer. I went ahead and wrote some questions that I thought would be helpful. So while I'm asking the state officers those, feel free to type in the chat any questions. So state officers, thinking back to when you were going through the process, what do you wish you would have known that you didn't know at the time? And whoever wants to answer can unmute.
I'll go if nobody else wants to. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. You just need to be yourself. Cause a lot of times going into nom-com, you just want to give the perfect answer, and you want to have the perfect speech, and everything has to be laid out so perfectly because you want to get state office. But it's really just about being yourself and like showing nomcom like your passion that you have for FFA and the love that you have for the organization and like how much you want to be able to serve the organization. Like it's not really about, you know, like having the perfect speech. I mean, although those things do matter, like you don't need to just, you know, do horribly and still have like the love to serve and still be able to get state office, but it's kind of just like an equal part. Like you need to be yourself. Perfect answer, because that's who you're going to be when you're in state office. You're not going to like have this persona of who you have in nomcom like when you're actually a state officer. So just try to be yourself, because that's what members are going to see throughout the year.
For me, it was like going into the process, I wish I would have known like ways I can like calm myself down, because like Salem was saying, like you're so worried and wound up about when you're going into the room, you tend to overstress, and I tend to I overstressed a lot, and I wish I would have known better ways to kind of deal with that stress to keep my mind focused on the process.
Okay, I want to add on to that. Y'all, like the people who are like interviewing y'all and stuff, they're trying to make y'all nervous, like on purpose. Like they know y'all are nervous, y'all know y'all are nervous. So, and you know, like in your head, you're about to mess up or whatever. Just mess up. It's okay, because they're trying to intimidate you on purpose to see how you mess up and how you recover from it.
Also, another thing for me was that throughout my whole time in the nomcom process, I was worried about what everyone else expected me to do. And if you're going to go into nomcom thinking about what other people want you to do and expect you to do, you're not going to have fun and you're not going to enjoy your experience. And although nomcom is stressful, it is a very good learning experience no matter what the outcome is. So you need to go in there and worry about what you want to do for this organization, not what anyone else wants you to do.
All right, thanks guys. We do have some questions. So Mason asked, what is the biggest challenge you have overcome in your year of service? So let's get a couple state officers to answer that.
I would like to answer. So one of the biggest challenges that like I've had to overcome is I was also a freshman in college, and so balancing my college work and FFA was a challenge that I had to like develop ways to overcome, because FFA is very important, but my schoolwork was too. And so just meeting in the middle for the two was something that I really had to work on.
Yeah, adding on to that from what Dakota said, it's you can kind of like looking at Megan's question in the chat. It was very hard for me to also find the balance, but that like I was able to do it and keep good grades. So like what Dakota said, finding the middle and still being involved on campus, because I know like me personally, I was involved in a lot of organizations on campus, and it was just trying to keep I guess you could say your mind focused on school, state office, and then all the extracurriculars you were involved in on campus was probably the biggest challenge I overcame.
For me, I was really involved in LSU's campus, and I like to go to a lot of club meetings and balancing state office. You know, as a state officer, you're going to want to do a lot of events and activities. And if you are free to do it, do it. But when you're in college, you are going to have those weeks where you have to focus on school, and that's not going to be an FFA week for you. But you have all year to just make sure you participate in those FFA events when you get them, because you're going to be focused on school a lot of the time.
Thank you. So Haley wants to know, for any officer, what has been the most memorable moment during your year of service?
Well, mine was at State Officer Summit in DC when we were at the Capitol, and I'm in official dress in my beautiful skirt in front of hundreds of state officers, and somehow the stairs, I don't know, they went invisible on me. I fell in front of the entire National FA organization, and I was so embarrassed, and I thought I broke my foot, but I played it off like a real boss. But that was my most memorable moment.
I guess I'll go. Summit was definitely really fun. And that was a funny story that happened to Jade. She fell so many times throughout the whole year. Not just
They don't need to know all that.
But I would say my most memorable moment, I wouldn't say moment, like moment, not moment, was definitely Alice's. You can take to a different country and like their state officers, and that was definitely my most memorable moment. 2 weeks long, like you're not at home, like you get to explore the world, and I don't know, like no offense to my team, but it was kind of cool to get to do something that my team like wasn't a part of, because throughout the year, like you're always together, you're getting the same experiences, and like sure, like I did wish my team like would have came with me, but it was also cool to do something that was different from my team, and I got to be friends with people from all over the country. So that would be my.
For me, the summer was pretty packed, and I got to do a lot of things in the summertime. I did my favorite thing. I can't really pick between, but I did a lot of officer retreats in the summer, and I also traveled to another state convention, and so that was really cool to help put workshops at that in West Virginia. And then as well, like I had like the moments I had with the officer retreats, like with Beauchamp, Florine, Lockport, South Lafourche, and a few other chapters. Those moments like made me appreciate being a state FFA officer, because I was able to see the leaders who are at who form our organization go into work, and because the heart of the FFA is in the chapters, and so I was able to see like the leaders develop in just a short weekend or week. But definitely the moments with the officer retreats is probably my favorite.
I would have to say is
Go ahead, Matthew. I'm sorry.
So my favorite moment it has to be when we went to Mississippi for base camp, and they fed us all the ice cream that we wanted and all the sweet tea that I wanted. They went to the store like every day, picked up a jug of sweet tea for me. It was great.
Alrighty. Okay, so Megan asked, and sorry, Salem, I don't think you can answer this one, but as someone who is looking to be involved in college, how did you balance being involved in different organizations and clubs on campus at the same time you were a state FFA officer?
I'll go ahead and I'll start this one because I think I had more of a non-traditional approach than some of the state officers. For me, it was just like I just had to find a line and draw it. Like I knew at what point I could handle so much physically and mentally, and I got involved with as many organizations as I could. And at the beginning of the year, I overloaded myself, and I just had to find that balance by backing off one at a time. And I would have traditionally been involved in more collegiate organizations, but next year I'll have the opportunity to join those, and I don't feel like I missed out on anything, because to me, being a state officer, you only have 365 days, and that experience to me kind of trumped everything else. And I just put a lot more time in being a state officer rather than joining other organizations, because they'll be there for the next 3 years.
I'd say find you a good roommate or study buddies that can help you and remind you to do stuff. Me, Tristan, and Zach, we stayed in Blake Hall together. And, I mean, we were always on each other, about what we had to do and how we had to do it. And it formed like a little competition between us who could get the best grades. And it really helped us and kept us going forward of what we needed to do in college. So.
For me, I definitely keep like a calendar book and write down every day you have a club meeting this day, what time, you have an FFA event this day. But I would always choose like Tristan said, your FFA events first, because you only have this 1 year to serve as a state officer, and you have all these other years to stay in college and do those club events. So when you have that FFA event, make sure to participate in, because you won't get it again after this.
All right. Sorry, I lost my place. Okay. Bryson asked, throughout being a state officer, in what way or ways has the experience changed you as a person?
Okay, I'll start this off. When I first started, I had a really big problem with self-confidence, and I was honestly, this sounds so sad that it's coming out of my mouth right now. I was scared of the kids that I would give workshops to. I was so scared they were gonna bully me, which is sad. But now, throughout the year, I grew a lot, and I'm fully confident in whatever I have to say and stuff like that.
For me is like not saying like before I was just like some super selfish person, but with FFA, like you as if you're a state officer and like even sometimes if you're an area officer, like there's things that you have to put above or you have to put FFA above like some things in your life. And whether that was like, you know, sometimes me having to go to chapter visits and not being able to like go to the school or like whatever, like a lot of times you do have to put FFA first. And like I guess it just teaches you to kind of be selfless and that, you know, sometimes you are going to have to, you know, work on session scripts whenever maybe you want to watch YouTube or you have to do this when maybe you would rather be hanging out with your actual friends and not your FFA friends. But, you know, that's just something that you have to definitely taught me how to be more selfless and put something above like my wants or needs as a person.
For me, it's kind of a little different from Salem, and it's probably going to sound bad when I first say it, but I think this year taught me how to be kind of selfish. And when I say that, I mean, it really taught me how to value my mental health and value what I want to do with my life when I grow up. And it really taught me not to just feel all the pressures that people put on me. And throughout this year, like, I'm really honest about it, I really did struggle mentally with a lot of stuff. And like towards the end of the year, I really learned how to cope with that and just learn how to handle myself better and be happy with what I was doing within this year.
Thanks, guys. Rachel asked, so what tips do you have to keep stress and nerves in check? And state officers, whenever we're answering these, think about that this process for them is going to be virtual too.
For me, going through the nom-com process, my way of handling nerves and stress was that I had a really good relationship with my advisors, and they were really big proponents of supporting me throughout the process. So like, you know, and I guess this is like probably gonna sound strange coming from me, but like if I came out of a nom-com round, like I just need to go in a room and like cry because trust me, I did it most rounds. Like I knew my advisors like wouldn't judge me for being emotional after you come out of a room because like sometimes that's extremely stressful and that's just the response that you naturally get from it. So I think surround yourself with people that you know are going to support you unconditionally and you know just be there for you in your weakest moment because really you emotionally and mentally, and that you just have to have people that you know you can count on.
And also remember that the other candidates are also just as nervous as you are. So even though you think you did really bad, they're probably thinking the same thing. So don't psych yourself out and think that you did horrible because they're doing the same thing to them. So just everyone needs to be positive about their rounds when they go through it. And just always remember that everyone is stressed and it's not just you. Like you're not in it alone.
It's also,
Go ahead.
you can go, okay. It's also less stressful if you just think about the round that's in front of you instead of the whole nominating process. So just remember, just focus on what you're about to do next. Keep taking deep breaths because I did that a lot if you were in the nominate, like running with me. And also, just like Tristan said, don't be afraid to talk to your advisor because that can take off a lot of mental stress off of you. I definitely visited my advisor a lot during each round. So
What I can say is, y'all, this does suck that y'all don't get the experience of all being together and comforting each other outside the rounds. But y'all do have I guess a benefit. I don't know. I can't think of the word right now. But y'all are in your comfort zones, like at home, and y'all that's where y'all more comfortable. So maybe it'll be easier and a lot less stressful for y'all than in a new environment.
Thanks, guys. Keep losing my place. Alicia asked, what was one of the first activities you did as an officer team?
It was
Okay, you can go.
I will say, well, if you're talking about like first, I mean, it would have to be base camp, but like I would say our first like activity that we done where it wasn't like about FFA stuff was playing in the pool at base camp, and like, oh gosh, that was such a fun time.
We also, one of it was at camp when Shea Booster came. We all played the Smash Bros in the camp living room when we were just taking a break, and that was really fun. That was a cool experience.
Okay. All right. Drake has a question. I actually had written down a question that kind of might lead into his. How has COVID-19 changed how your year of service looks?
It changed it big. We made banquet speeches, and now we don't even think there's going to be banquets that's going to happen. So that removes some of our chapter visits to meet members and social. Just as Mr. Lejeune said, we only did 50 out of 100 what we were supposed to do. So you don't know how many members that's going to impact. So, I mean, it just cuts that off for us.
Yeah, so the week before, I think we all got quarantined, I had a chapter visit scheduled, I think the Friday, and I was really excited to go to it, but I ended up sick with the flu. And I remember, I think, like, the next Monday, because I texted her to reschedule or whatever, and she was like, well, I don't think we can reschedule because I don't see school going back together. And I remember bawling my eyes out, so I was like, there's going to be no more chapter visits, and I was so upset, but I guess it's okay. I don't know.
A great tip is stay involved in social media platforms. That's a great way to still connect. And obviously, y'all have seen everything we've been posting on social media. Just because we can't be there in person doesn't mean we still can't make that positive impact. So make sure to stay active on social media and try to connect with those members.
And trying to overcome the challenges that you will face. You just got to remember why you're a state officer and why what you represent Louisiana FFA with. Just because we can't meet in person doesn't mean we can't do these things virtually. And so our team has been trying really hard to stay interactive with you all on social media by doing either workshops or YouTube lives or something like that. We're just trying to keep it where we're still involved in trying to carry out the mission of Louisiana FFA. So
more towards specifically what Drake said for the next team of state officers, just remember to stay positive. It might suck, a little bit, especially if, if you guys can't start doing things until September or October maybe, but just keep stay positive, because this year I've kind of learned that positivity comes from within. You might have bad situations or bad things that come up just with, even in normal life, FFA life, school life, but it's really up to you as a person to just keep staying positive and think, well, everything happens for a reason. I know this is, going on, but it's up to me to stay positive, because that's one of the things that has definitely helped me. And I think essentially you'll have to have that positivity in order to still have fun and still feel like you get a normal year for the next state officer team.
Thank you, guys. We have about 10 more minutes for the state officer Q&A. Sadie asked, what is the most important thing you've learned this year?
For me, it's definitely learning about what I wanted my role in agriculture to be. I know sometimes it does get kind of difficult for a lot of us who aren't necessarily farmers or have any of that type of background to really think about what we want to do in this organization. But for me, I definitely learned what I want to do in this organization and where I'm what I'm really passionate about agriculture. I think I sort of rediscovered it for this year, and I think it's incredibly important to learn that, because I know some of us might not be too sure what we can do within the agricultural field.
Anybody else on that question, or did Jaden kind of cover it? Okay, we'll move on. Another question from Sadie. Were any of you seniors in high school during your time of office? Salem, this is for you. If so, were you still able to be involved in your own chapter?
Yeah, so